then, welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me this morning. Always a pleasure. It's wet, it's rainy, it's windy, all the wonderful things associated, of course, with the wet season. So you can expect more of this, according to the Met Office, over the course of this month, December and January. A lot more rain as compared to what we experienced in August, September and October. But anyway, let's get into the conversation this morning, focusing on the leadership of the United National Congress as a whole, not just the opposition leader herself, but the executive and preparations for 2025. Now, we're all aware of the news. That already has been exhausted. There have been responses to that, and it's more or less died down. But the questions surrounding the actual leadership within the opposition, that's still very much debatable. I'm joined by Opposition Senator, the Honourable Damian Leiter. He's with us via Zoom. Good morning, Senator. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, my lord. Good morning to you, and good morning to all your listeners. And of course, we're in a very festive season. We are in a very holy season. So I say Shubh Diwali to all of your viewers and listeners here today. And thank you very much for having me on your program once again.
Indeed, Shubh Diwali, and thank you very much for joining me on the program. Well, the opposition leadership, the quality of that leadership, and the ability of the United National Congress to lead Trinidad and Tobago in 2025 and beyond. Those are the questions that the UNC will be asking itself as it heads into the next 1.5 to 2 years. That's when the campaign really begins. So my first question to you this morning is simple. How united is the United National Congress?
Well, I mean, contrary to the distractions put out in the social media world, in the world of social media and so forth, by the PNM, who, realizes that their backs are against the wall, that they're on their way out of government, so they're desperately trying to change the narrative from the failure of the PNM and into some alleged squabbles that might be happening in the UNC. I want to just completely dismiss that from the onset and say that we are extremely united party. I think you can look throughout the Diwali season, you can see the amount of MPs and senators that have joined the leader throughout different visitations and so on during this season. And not only that, but we're working very hard together, both in the lower house and in the Senate, united, and continue to expose, continue to hold to account a government that is clearly falling apart, that clearly seems to be failing in every aspect of the word failure, through every ministry, everything collapsing today, an economy collapsing, every ministry collapsing, the social society collapsing, education collapsing, health collapsing. We're seeing that happening now. Crime out of control, national security collapsing. These are the real issues of today. And we see a PNM government that is failing at solving any of these issues. On the other hand, you see allegations being said about our party, but as I said, I want to dismiss that as a distraction. I wouldn't even want to get into that. We are a united party. We are a strong party made up of a strong leader with strong members that sit in the lower house and in the Senate. And at the same point in time, beyond the lower house and the Senate, the party is made up of many intellects. The United National Congress has always been a party made up of more intelligent people, educated people, accomplished people. And I mean, I can draw a reference between any minister today versus ministers before, between 2010 and 2015. But to answer your question, we are united, and we are united behind one leader.
Well, you said you've described the opposition leaders as strong. What renders that description? Obviously, there are a lot of questions surrounding the ability of Kamla Persad-Bissessar not only to lead her party, but to lead Trinidad and Tobago as a leader, as a prime minister, whatever the case may be.
Well, look, I always believe the proof is in the pudding. I always believe that you have to look at someone's track record. When you go for an interview in a job, you have to show them your credentials. You have to show them what you've accomplished. What is your education? What experience do you have in working for a company or in the industry? Well, if tomorrow morning Kamla Persad-Bissessar the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar is asked to be Prime Minister again, we're going to have to ask ourselves, what is the qualifications? What experience does she have? This is a lady that between 2010 and 2015 was the Prime Minister of this country, and was the Prime Minister of a government which was a coalition of a number of parties. She had to hold together a coalition of parties, a coalition of different parties with different ideologies, different motives and goals. And she did so successfully between 2010 and 2015. We saw that in the way in which the economy grew year on year under Kamala Persad-Bissessar. We saw that where crime was reduced significantly to the lowest point in over a decade under Kamala Persad-Bissessar. We saw that when we had an education system that was thriving. We saw that when we had unemployment declining. She created more than 50,000 jobs under her stewardship.
Senator,
how can you compare?
Senator, hold on. That sounds all well and good, but even though you're describing these things, bear in mind, we also saw under Kamala Persad-Bissessar since 2015 multiple election defeats.
Multiple election defeats? Well, look, at the end of the day, look, the PNM has always had a very, very significant ability to come out and create lies to the population. All that has happened, that we have seen happen, is PNM has been able to spin lies. We saw that in Emailgate as one. We saw that when they tried to falsely accuse an attorney general and another lawyer, which has now been struck out in the courts. The PNM has continued to spin lies after lies after lies, which we have seen has resulted in some of the election losses, and much to the detriment of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because we see what we have today. What we have today is a PNM that lied their way into government, and a government that has now failed the people, and people that are sitting down asking themselves, did we do the right thing? So I don't want to worry about election losses as a result of PNM lies. I worry about how did a country run under a Kamala Persad-Bissessar government versus a Keith Christopher Rowley government. You can fool the people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the times. The PNM has been able to fool the people sometimes, but there will be a 2025 election, and they wouldn't be able to fool all the people all the time. The proof is in the pudding. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, any day you want to put Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her then cabinet against Keith Christopher Rowley and his current cabinet, and I can make a draw reference between Kamala Persad-Bissessar as the leader and every single minister that's fell below her versus any minister today. And we can draw a full comparison about leadership in any ministry that you want. And I can show you leadership versus failure. Well, these are the things we have to look at. You see, let me tell you something, my brother. We have spent so much time as a nation being distracted, wasting time about who lost what election and whatever the case may be. A country does not prosper based on who lost an election or won an election. A country prospers based on what a government does. Many times a government can win an election and collapse an economy and collapse a country. The fact is, when Kamala Persad-Bissessar won the election in 2010, what happened to the country between 2010 and 2015, and what has happened to the country in the last 8 years under the stewardship of Keith Christopher Rowley?
Okay, so
that is what
I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. But sure. What about the other issues, therefore, if that be the case, of even trying to get the voting population to come out in its numbers? If I take a look at the local government elections, for example, the big celebration for the UNC/NTA was that they gained 3 council seats and that they got the popular vote. But 70% of the voting population didn't come out. Doesn't that speak to the caliber of politics and politicians on both sides? But you're an opposition member of parliament, so on both sides, we're talking about now, doesn't that reflect the quality of leadership and politicians that we have now? People just are not interested.
I think it's unfair to really measure exactly what you're saying based on the local government election. Local government elections have historically drawn low numbers. I think the difference between the amount that came out to vote this time versus the last local government elections was, I think, a couple of percentage points, right?
So it was percentage points.
I think it was less than 5. I think it might have been about 3, actually, 3 point something percent, but a percent here or there, right? But what's most important is to understand this: which people did not come out. When you looked at what UNC would have garnered in terms of votes in the last local government election, I think it was about 200, just about 200,000 votes. Not in the last one, the local government election before that, we got close. We got just over 190,000 votes within this election. When you looked at the PNM, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was about 160-something thousand votes. They got 130,000 this time around.
Yeah, the UNC got 173,000.
Yeah. So when we look, if you have to look at the UNC and the NTA together, because remember, we would have gone into an arrangement with the NTA. If we had not gone into an arrangement with the NTA, we would have fought in certain seats and we would have gotten more votes. You really have to put both the NTA and the UNC together in terms of the numbers of votes in this local government election versus the PNM. So therefore, where did that gap actually happen? The gap actually happened with the PNM. The PNM lost more than 30,000 votes in this last local government election. So this was an indication that whereas the UNC partnership with the NTA held our ground, held our votes, picking up more seats, strengthening corporations, bringing Sangre Grande Regional Corporation from a marginal once upon a time to a stronghold today, and of course putting Toko Grande as a possible winning seat in the next general election. You have a PNM that has lost over 30,000 votes in the local government election. So if you're saying that a population that has lost their taste, well, we've been holding our own, while the PNM has been losing significant ground. And we saw that happen in the San Fernando Regional Corporation.
But Senator, is it also an indicator that the opposition under the leadership of Cameron Purcell-Bissessar cannot actually lead in an election, whether they come with a popular vote, whatever the case may be, without a coalition? Because as you said, you have to look at it from the aspect of the UNC, the NTA.
No, well, look, listen. There's nothing wrong with a coalition. You know, there are coalitions throughout the world. We see coalitions throughout the world. When you live in a country that since the day of our independence, the PNM has gerrymandered seats throughout to win elections. That's what they have done. Look at the local government election. Look at the way in which corporations are cut up in this country today, where you can have 10,000 persons living in an area called Point Fortin, and that has its own corporation, versus over 130,000 people living in Couva Tabakit, and that's one corporation. It is clear the government, the PNM government, from inception, from independence, has gerrymandered seats throughout this country. So it takes a whole country to come together to put a PNM government out of office, a PNM government that has progressively destroyed our economies time and time again, that has emptied our treasury time and time again. It takes a country to come together, and if it takes a coalition, then so be it. So be it.
I'm not saying anything.
We are a party that will always be open to coalitions, because we are a party that understands that there are differences, there are different ideologies throughout the length and breadth of this country. There are different people. We are a diverse party. We are a diverse country. So therefore, we want to be a government that represents all the people, not just some of the people, like this PNM government, and even the some of the people that they claim to represent. They don't even represent them now.
Now, I'm not arguing
I
with
mean,
you in
yes.
regards to the power of a coalition. I agree with you, nothing is wrong with a coalition, but it goes in reference with the topic, because a couple more questions to get in with the time that we have, and one of the questions that has always bothered me is that the Prime Minister, bear in mind he is the Prime Minister, has made himself available to the media on multiple occasions. I've put forward a request to interview the opposition leader many a times, no response. Is it that the opposition leader simply cannot speak without the assistance or the help of her senators or her other members of parliament around her? Is it that she cannot speak herself?
Let me tell you something, my friend. True leadership is empowering your team. True leadership is not becoming a dictator or trying to dictate the narrative. True leadership is empowering your team. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, one of her goals, major goals, before she ends her career in politics, is to ensure that she leaves behind a strong and robust team that can run a country at a moment's notice. You do not foster, and I don't want to use that word foster because that's another failure, but you do not foster continuity. You do not create a sense of you do not end your career by leaving a party vacant without the ability to continue on, without the ability to lead. Kamala Persad-Bissessar has empowered her MPs and her senators. She ensures that everyone speaks to the population. Everyone has the ability to speak on any topic at any point in time. We hold press conferences every Wednesday, every Sunday, sometimes on Fridays. When we don't hold press conferences, we have our Monday night reports. And she ensures to allow all MPs, all senators who shadow various ministries. That's the thing, is that in the opposition, we are a government in waiting. And she's ensured that she has put the right persons in the right places to shadow ministries. So that is why you see so many different members of parliament and senators speaking to the population. Kamala Persad-Bissessar does not need to come out every week to say something to the population. She has a qualified team below her, and that's the difference. You see, Pete Rowley has to come out.
Hold on, opposition. Let's go back to my question.
Pete Rowley has to come out and talk.
Let's go back to my question. I'm
What's that?
asking in particular, not holding press conferences.
Yes.
But the ability, just as how you have made yourself available this morning, just as how government ministers have made themselves for an interview, not only on this platform, but on other platforms, could the opposition leader do the same? Does she have the ability to sit down and have a conversation one-on-one?
Well, I think she has been she's been placed in the papers every single week. You see Kamala Persad-Bissessar in the papers, so that means she has been communicating with the media. She comes on Monday night reports. She has spoken on countless occasions. In fact, if I am not mistaken, just recently we concluded a budget debate, and the very first matter of business was the opposition leader standing up in front of the nation, addressing the nation with the media on matters of the budget. In fact, just last night we were in Diwali Nagar. The opposition leader makes herself available during. Where is Dr. Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister, during Diwali? I seem to not see him in any event. Kamala Persad-Bissessar has been throughout the length and breadth of this country in the last couple of weeks during the Diwali season. And while traversing the different locations of Trinidad during Diwali, there have been members of the media that have been there, that have interviewed her. When she comes to Parliament, she jumps out of her car and members of the media, she walks across the road to the other side road where there are countless protesters. The media interviews her at that stage. Kamala Persad-Bissessar has had many interviews with the media. And now, I'm sorry if you may not have gotten an opportunity to interview Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, and I'll be sure to mention mention that to her. But I mean, I don't think it's fair to say that she does not speak with the media and that she does not sit with interviews. Maybe it hasn't happened with you. I am sorry if it hasn't happened with you.
Oh well, I'm all too sorry as well, because I think it's very fortunate that I'm able to have you this morning, and I'm able to have government MPs as well and ministers as well, and other media stations.
No, and let me tell you something. And you have an excellent program. I love coming on your program because you ask very, very tough questions, and that is what people in the media must do. They must ask tough questions. They must be balanced. And you are very much balanced. I find you to be balanced. You ask tough questions. Doesn't matter if it's PNM or UNC comes on your program. I've seen your program. So I do like your program, and I'm saying to you, it's unfortunate if she has not been on your program. But I can say to you that the opposition leader has been on countless interviews with the media. I mean, and I said, we just need to draw a reference from the budget debate recently, where she, from there all the way to Diwali, because remember, we went from an election to a budget debate to Diwali. This has been what has happened in the last few months. She has had countless interviews during the election, after the budget debate. She has had press conferences. She has had interviews. There have been media that have called her on the phone, where she's given responses. She's given out countless. Every single week there's a press release coming out from Kamala Persad-Bissessar. If I challenge you, open the newspaper at any given week in the last 6 months, and you will see a press release coming out from Kamala Persad-Bissessar. And then we take ourselves into Diwali. We have seen Kamala Persad-Bissessar present in person. When all it talks about, oh, she was not well, and oh, she got a stroke, and oh, she cut off toes off her feet. Kamala Persad-Bissessar stood there last night in the Diwali Nagar, stronger than ever, delivered a mammoth speech.
Opposition Senator,
a tremendous speech.
My apologies for having to interrupt and cut you across, but we're out of time. But thank you very much, nevertheless, for your presence this morning. A very interesting conversation indeed, and I look forward to the next.
I thank you very much. I thank you for having me once again. I thank you for allowing me to speak to all of the listeners. And I will pass on the message to my honorable leader that you do want an interview. So because I do think you're a great you're a great member of the media, and I'll pass that on. It's unfortunate that you haven't gotten one, but I will pass on the message for sure. Unfortunate
indeed. Thank you very much, sir. Happy Diwali to you and your family. And
have a good one. To you and your family. Okay. Take care.
Yes, it is unfortunate indeed, but I wonder how many of my colleagues in the media have also gotten a one-on-one with the opposition leader as well. I can't recall the last time that happened, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not keeping abreast enough with the news. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on the program. When we return, we get into another conversation, a continuation, that is, of a matter, of an issue that has been affecting many citizens across Trinidad and Tobago, and that is noise pollution. We'll be right back after this.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain. Fan Zone, Your reliable, authentic supplier has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Welcome back to the program. So as I mentioned before we took that break, the issue of noise pollution here in Trinidad and Tobago, AM Prime has covered that throughout the course of this year because it's been raised within the Parliament through a joint select committee. I've interviewed the EMA, but a couple of days ago, the EMA and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service issued a joint statement. Police officers are receiving training in the use of noise meters ahead of Carnival 2024. I'm not sure why we're waiting for Carnival 2024. This is something that should have been done a lot sooner, but whatever the case may be, they're finally receiving training. They're looking to increase the number of police officers in the EMA's Environmental Police Unit. Probably not increase the number of officers, but actually finally get officers within that unit itself. And the police have recommitted to treating with noise pollutions, recommitted, that's a buzzword. Were they ever committed? You see, these are things that we have to highlight. And welcoming to the program once more an individual who has joined me previously. She is the Public Relations Officer of Citizens Against Noise Pollution, who were actually part of the conversations present at the Joint Select Committee meeting earlier this year. Ms. Tamara Chetar, she's with us via Zoom. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Well, your initial reaction to the news of this recommitment, the teaming up between the police and the EMA in tackling and dealing with noise pollution. Possibly nothing new to your ears, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we always like to throw our support behind the TTPS. They have been quite gracious in having meetings, very, very positive meetings, and saying and recommitting to the cause. But like you just mentioned, we wonder why the wait. We have not seen the action that we would like to see. We get testimonials on a daily basis from, our group is made up of 3,000 citizens, over 3,000. We also have a WhatsApp group where we monitor in real time. And every single day, there are complaints about the treatment of our citizens, where when they make a phone call to the police, where they have asked for official reports. We have been pressing our membership to go in, leave your homes, get in and make official police reports. So in case you need for litigation, so we actually have hard copy proof of these incidents, and it's not met with any action. So while I appreciate the key stakeholders are meeting for a way forward, as exemplified by their meeting on the 3rd of November, the process is just taking too long to get relief to the average citizen. The bureaucracy is literally part of the problem in addressing noise pollution in Trinidad and Tobago. And what's happening is their mental health and physical health is severely affected. And I mean, how could you put a timestamp on health? There is such a lack of awareness. So coming out of a meeting again and again is the recommitment from the EMA and the police to work together for ongoing training, which we keep hearing, but we need to see action. In the releases, they keep reaffirming to contact the police for residential noise, which is a huge problem. You yourself have said, you've been dealing with it is something that affects you. And yet up to this day, the police communications department has yet to release a single release to the public to acknowledge their responsibility. And it begs to the question again, why is there not a sensitization program on informing the public where to go for noise pollution relief? It highlights again that there's no urgency in addressing this matter.
Ms. Husar, I'm curious to know, I interviewed you and another lady by the name of Ms. Linian Bechu a couple months ago, actually, following the Joint Select Committee meeting. Has your membership only grown since? Have you received increased reports of complaints associated with noise pollution?
It is constant. Every single day there's an increase. And we hear horror stories. We have had testimonials about people's children. We have had down to testimonials about newborns that are actually physically, we have the pictures, covering their ears. I actually had a testimonial from a woman whose grandson had to take his iPad and go into a closet, lock himself into a closet because of residential noise. And the responses that we get from officers when people call in are and we're approaching a holiday weekend. It's a holiday. Let people enjoy themselves. Mm-hmm. People have the right to enjoy music on their property, of course, but my constitutional right, our constitutional right, is to be able to enjoy your property in peace. And with all the increases in, let's say, property tax, shouldn't we be able to enjoy our homes if we need to increase those things? Where is the action? We are not seeing the action. We are seeing the damage, but we're not seeing the action.
So the reports that your membership would go to the police station and make, or even in regards, let's expand it a bit, the conversations between the group, the organization, and the EMA or the TTPS, what has that been like? And generally speaking, the response, because I can't use a blanket statement. There may be some police officers who are very receptive. There may be some who make their complaints and receive a response, a timely response or prompt action. But overall, has there been any level of improvement since our last conversation?
Not that I could measure. Not that I can measure, or not that I can see. It has been frustration because we are hearing it's almost like we're spinning top in mud. The discussions are being had, which is fantastic. We want to applaud the fact that we're actually having discussions. But where is the action that we can measure? Because we can measure the reports. They have asked us. They have asked us in the past, and this was some years ago, please that this is not a problem because we do not have the data. We do not have those actual reports. And that is what we've been pushing our members to do. Please make the police reports so that we can measure. So now we're measuring an increase in actual police reports, but there is, where is it going? And also a huge issue, and I have to highlight this issue, is the lack of receipt books at police stations. So when somebody goes to make a report, we are being met with many, many cases where we do not have receipt books at stations. So how are we measuring any data?
That indeed is a great concern. So therefore, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, to protect and serve all around, and the TTPS is under a lot of fire in recent times for other issues beyond noise pollution. So it's a lot, but to protect and serve. And then the Environmental Management Authority, which has prided itself on encouraging the integration of environmental concerns between the public and even the private. In plain and simple terms, have they failed citizens here in TNT when it comes to noise pollution?
Well, I would say yes. I would say I understand that the TTPS is stretched. What is happening in our country is a surge of crime that, of course, we also met with LISTEN. The TTPS, our officers are out dealing with other serious matters. And I understand that their resources are stretched, but when these incidents happen, they are escalated when your mental health is affected. And we have seen incidents where violence comes about. People have been killed when they've taken the law into their own hands and gone to deal with matters that are small, and we've seen that. The EMA constantly has been called by many of our members to deal with, let's say, businesses, clubs, bars, and it takes sometimes 2 years to get proper responses. They are understaffed. I understand that they don't have the resources. So it's great that these people, these entities are cooperating, but I would like to see action. We need to see action because we're hearing the talk, we embrace the conversation, we want to support the EMA and the TTPS in their efforts. We are asking, what can we do? What can the citizenry do to make this job a little easier for you? But we need the help, and that help should come in the form of action.
And that leads me to my final question. Following this release, this joint release from the EMA and the TTPS, and the recommitment to fighting noise pollution in particular, with all that has been highlighted, including the training of officers, the staffing of the Environmental Protection Unit under the EMA, and the reinforcing of Section 70 of the Constitution, as noted by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, do you even expect anything to happen following this release?
I like to be positive. The fact that we're having this conversation, the fact that I am in front of you this morning, I do expect something positive. We will increase the pressure, if you want to call it that, we would like to see what is coming out of this. The court has stated in a recent judgment that as a part of a police officer's duty and in the exercise of his discretion in all circumstances of the case, we are of the view that the decision may be rightly made to take all reasonable steps, and they've put that on the police to immediately abate a public nuisance. The need for such latitude is even more apparent when contemplating the specialist function of the Environmental Police Unit officers. So, one of the chief responsibilities is the protection of the environment, including from noise pollution. So I expect change, and I want to be positive about it. And the only way we could do that is if we keep talking about it. If the media has that, they have that responsibility in highlighting this consistently. We can't drop the ball here because we see where it is affecting the mental and physical health of our citizenry.
Certainly. Well, Ms. Chita, thank you very much this morning for joining me on the program, and all the best to you and to your membership and to all citizens out there this weekend. Yes, we are all allowed to enjoy our privacy, our property. We're all allowed to enjoy the holiday and the festivities. But for all of us to enjoy it, we must also be considerate. So bear that in mind as we go forward. Thank you very much once more for your time this morning.
So much. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good day. All the best. You may be wondering why I feel so strongly about this conversation, this topic in particular. It's because I myself, I've raised it before on this program, I've said it before, I've revealed it. I myself have suffered from noise pollution. I myself have suffered from really inconsiderate and unfortunate individuals who only think about themselves, and it's a constant thing. So yes, I do feel very strongly about it because I know how it affects people. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's sad that nothing is done because I've interacted with the TCPS, I've interacted with the EMA, but ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It continues. So we will continue to highlight this issue, and we'll continue to highlight more issues, whether or not they affect me personally. It's Trinidad and Tobago we live in. We have to try and make it sweet for all, not just for a few. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break.
Here's the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. San Fernando Chamber Kiran Singh says crime is having a negative impact on businesses. Residents facing water woes receive hope amid recent downpours. Regionally, Grenada unveils underwater sculptures at Molyneux Park. Now for the details. Crime is having a negative impact on businesses in TNT, and if something is not done soon, it will have serious consequences on the economy. This according to President of the San Fernando Chamber, Kiran Singh. He says that statistically speaking, crime has been having a negative impact on businesses and investor confidence in the country as murders and robberies continue to escalate and home invasions continue to increase. He stated that while the chamber noticed that the president sought to alleviate the situation by providing help for the TCPS via the Defense Force, however, this would have challenges. He lamented the fact that criminals responded by invading the homes of those who chose to take the advice to lock up early, sometimes with dire consequences. Residents in Arima grappling with water supply challenges can expect some reprieve, thanks to recent heavy rainfall, according to assurances from the Water Storage Authority. The disruption in water service, attributed to a shortfall of 5 million gallons per day at the Hollis Reservoir, has impacted areas including Valencia, Arima, Aruca, La Ferrasante, and others. Arima Mayor Baliram Maharaj shared that WASA has taken proactive measures by tapping into water sources in Guanapo and Aripo to supplement the deficiency at the Hollis Reservoir. In collaboration with the Public Utilities Minister, efforts are underway to involve additional contractors in delivering truck-borne water to affected residents. To address the shortfall, WASA has initiated the drilling of 3 wells in Aripo, further contributing to the ongoing efforts to alleviate the water supply challenges faced by the affected communities. Regionally, Grenada's Tourism Authority recently revealed the triumphant realization and placement of a groundbreaking initiative, bringing a unique blend of art and marine conservation to the crystal clear waters of Grenada. Guided by the creative vision of sculptor Jason K.S. Taylor, a total of 31 mesmerizing underwater sculptures have been carefully immersed and positioned within the Molyneux Underwater Sculpture Park. Well, that's it. To News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us this morning. My next topic focuses on the referendum that is due to take place in Venezuela in early December in regards to the region of the Essequibo, which accounts for just over 70% of Guyana's land. The issue is whether or not Venezuela is entitled to that land, whether or not Venezuela can start issuing ID cards to residents under said land, under disputed land. Guyana, of course, has taken a strong position against this. Also, what we're seeing is an unprecedented move where the leader of the opposition and the president of Guyana have both come out in joint statements condemning what is taking place. We've even seen the Attorney General of Guyana asking over 100 parliaments to actually issue statements against Venezuela's actions. Well, this morning I am joined by my guest, media consultant and newspaper columnist, Mr. Orrin Gordon. His latest column, TNT Shouldn't Be Engaging in Venezuela, also focuses on our current negotiations with respect to the Dragon gas field. He is with us via Zoom. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining me, sir. Well, this issue in regards to Trinidad and Tobago's position in particular, we're in the midst of negotiations. Most recently, the Minister of Energy and Energy Industry, Stuart Young, was in Caracas to continue such negotiations. But he now finds himself in a rather difficult position given the tensions between very close member state of CARICOM and a very close trading partner in Guyana and a future trading partner possibly in Venezuela. What are your thoughts on this situation in its entirety, especially TNT's position?
Well, good morning again. As I said in my column on Tuesday in the Express, I do not expect Trinidad and Tobago to not act in its self-interest. I just laid out the facts on the table concerning the Venezuelan claim, which is a long-standing historical claim to the size of a territory. Depending on who you talk to, they'll tell you it's 74% of Guyana's territory or 3/5 of Guyana's territory, but it's certainly the vast majority of Guyana's territory. All of Guyana, west of the country's biggest river, the Essequibo. The Venezuelan claim with British Guyana was settled in 1899 by independent arbitration. Independent nation. Guyana was then British Guyana. We became independent in 1966. But in 1899, an independent arbitration panel looked at the Venezuelan claim and decided that these are the boundaries, right? When the countries of the Caribbean started to gain independence in the 1960s, starting with Jamaica in 1962 and then Trinidad and Tobago in 1962, Venezuela decided to revive the claim. And since that time, Guyana became independent in 1966. Since that time, they've been saber-rattling. The Essequibo claim has become part of the school curriculum. You have Venezuelan maps that are available only in Venezuela, that I've seen only from Venezuelan sources, that includes Guyana's piece of the Essequibo, Guyana's Essequibo County. The ugly, as I said in my column, the ugly proboscis, the ugly nose. We all know what the map of Venezuela looks like, but for the purposes of the Venezuelan claim, they have this map, but the proboscis, the nose of on its eastern flank, that incorporates Essequibo into the Guyana map, and that is where it is. My point about Trinidad and Tobago's engagement with Venezuela is that if you ask your citizens in a referendum whether they should seize, whether you should take as effectively, there are 5 questions and they're framed in a certain way. But if, in effect, you ask your citizens whether you should take Essequibo, exercise your right and exercise your claim, and give force to your claim, and I don't use force in its literal sense, but if you ask your citizens whether you should take this place and whether you should issue ID cards to the people who live there, you are taking things a step further than you've ever taken them before. And indeed, you are ratcheting up tensions to an unprecedented level. If, as expected, because the citizenry of Venezuela has been indoctrinated for decades into believing that this land into which I travel a lot, on which Kite Falls, our national or natural treasure, sits, right? If Venezuelans have been indoctrinated for decades into believing that that is theirs, then obviously a yes vote is going to be returned in the referendum.
Mr. Gordon, sorry to interrupt you, but the other point in regards to this is that, historically speaking, residents within the Essequibo region will tell you, as I've heard, that they're used to learning or hearing about such flare-ups in regards to tensions over this particular region. It's not something that is necessarily new, but why is it so different this time? Is it because of that referendum, which possibly might highlight any hints of an invasion or annexation? Is what really makes this different to the flare-ups from the past?
When you say flare-ups, I don't know what you mean by that. But what I can tell you is that the border is porous. It's hundreds imagine Trinidad and Tobago has a sea border with Venezuela. Ghana has a land border with Venezuela. And the people close to the border have been interacting with each other for decades. Guyanese living close to the border speak perfect Spanish. Venezuelans living next to the border speak perfect English. And there's a degree of movement across the border that is unpoliced and undocumented, right? Because, as I said, there are hundreds of miles of borders, rivers and forests and whatnot, right? When you say flare-ups, I don't know that is the...
Let me clarify, flare-ups in regards to the issue, the issues surrounding the claim, not necessarily any sort of action beyond that.
Well, as I've said, Venezuela since 1962, they've been telling their people that Essequibo belongs to them, and they've been drawing these maps that incorporate Essequibo. So if that is what you mean by flare-ups, yes, but it still wouldn't be, in my view, an accurate term to use, because the issue has never gone away.
No, it's a term that is also in your column, so I'm referring to that as well.
No, but not in the context in which it appears that you refer to it. When you talk about it like that, it sounds as if there have been disturbances. Sure, that Venezuelan troops have occupied an island, and Coco Island, in one of the border rivers, an island that belongs to Guyana, and they have been saber rattling, they've been massing troops on the border and so on and so forth. But anybody who lives in Essequibo can tell you that we Guyanese travel to the parts of Essequibo quite freely. There's never been, as far as we can tell, Venezuelan control of that land. Our national or natural wonder, the largest single drop waterfall in the world, Kite Falls, which I urge you to visit at some point, is in Essequibo. Our savanna lands in the south are in Essequibo. So there's never been Venezuelan control of the area, but Venezuelan citizens have been indoctrinated into believing, and certainly all of us in Guyana know, not just the people in the area, know that they have this claim and they draw these ridiculous maps.
Now, CARICOM has issued a statement actually reaffirming its position, siding with international law, of course, and the power and strength of international law. And that international law should, of course, be abided to and adhered to. With that being said, again, given TNT's position, does anything need to be added by the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, possibly, or even the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, who are again in the midst of the negotiations?
No, look, I understand Trinidad and Tobago's position. Trinidad, no part of your government needs to add anything to CARICOM's statement. What CARICOM said was that effectively was that the referendum is in breach of international law, and it is. As I said at the start, the matter is before the International Court of Justice in The Hague. And we have asked, we in Ghana have asked the International Court of Justice to make a pronouncement on it once and for all. And with the matter still being before the court, the Nicolas Maduro government went ahead and gave note of a referendum unilaterally that effectively asked its citizens whether it should cease execution. And this is a dangerous escalation. If, as expected, the point I was on the point of making when you asked me your second question, if, as expected, the citizens of Venezuela say yes in the referendum to these questions, he is constitutionally compelled to go through with their wishes. And how is he going to go through with their wishes? Certainly not by asking Guyana nicely to give them the land, right? So this represents a dangerous escalation. But Trinidad and Tobago has economic interests. And I don't expect that Trinidad and Tobago will abandon its economic interests, but they must be aware that they're dealing with a rogue state, and you cannot deal with rogue states in business as usual. So I understand that Trinidad and Tobago is walking a tightrope. Everything that I've told you this morning, they are aware of. They're walking a tightrope. They've expressed support through CARICOM for Guyana, and I believe that they've expressed support bilaterally for Guyana's position in the past. But they do not need to add anything to this statement. But let me offer an analogy before your next question. You're in the casino. It's 3 a.m. You've won some money. But at some point, it has become apparent to you that you're sitting down and you're playing cards with gangsters. And the Venezuelan government is a rogue government. Venezuela has become a rogue state. You have to make a decision to do what is right at that point. You've made money in the casino. You've had money from several hands, but you have to do what is right. And the Trinidad and Tobago government at some point will have to do what is right, which is walk away from any kind of dealings with a rogue state. There are reports in there were reports in the Miami Herald earlier in the week about Venezuela effectively becoming a narco state. The Maduro government being enablers of a thriving drug trade between Venezuela and the United States. They're a rogue state. And at some point, you're going to have to make a decision that for the purposes of propriety or whatever else, you can't deal with rogue states. But, I understand the position that Trinidad and Tobago is in pursuit of its national interest, its vital national economic interest.
May I ask, sorry to interrupt, may I ask for clarification when you mentioned at some point TNT has to understand that it cannot continue normal relations with Venezuela. When you say at some point, are you referring to what may come out following the referendum on December 3rd?
No, well, the referendum will certainly be at a tipping point. Everybody expects a yes vote in the referendum. And if there's a yes vote, there is in a referendum, there is a constitutional compulsion on the government to follow through on what was voted on in the referendum. It means that they would have to take execution. They are constitutionally compelled to take execution, notwithstanding the fact that the matter is before the International Court of Justice.
What are your...
Once the results of the referendum are ratified, Venezuela becomes a rogue state. I would argue that by virtue of announcing the referendum, they are already a rogue state.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What is your opinion in regards to, because I know you mentioned the economic situations, and again, you understand TNT's position, but TNT's position in regards to CARICOM, is it possible that Venezuela may be using these negotiations as well to its advantage with respect to the situation between Guyana and CARICOM?
Venezuela has been playing the nations of CARICOM off against Guyana. It is dangling all kinds of deals in front of the countries, and the main one of those deals has been the Petro-Caribe Agreement. Guyana itself, let's make this clear, Guyana itself has benefited from the Petro-Caribe Agreement, which is a deal for oil at concessionary prices. If you go to PriceSmart and your shopping bill is $600, which you could easily spend at PriceSmart, hopefully not by credit card, and you have the chance to take $200 off your shopping bill, you would take the opportunity to do so. The biggest part of the national expenditure of many countries is fuel. And Venezuela has been saying to them, I can engage with you in a number of facilities and in a number of ways to get you fuel at cheap prices, and countries would take that. So it is clear that Venezuela has been, in order to win friends and influence people, it has been offering all kinds of sweet deals. And the revival of the Dragon gas field agreement is, I would argue, one such sweet and irresistible deal. And again, I make the point, I expect Trinidad and Tobago to want to act in its vital national interest and to knock the $200 off its PriceSmart shopping bill, so to speak. And I acknowledge that it's in a spot. It's in a little bit of a spot. But as I said before, the referendum is a game changer. With a matter before an international court, you unilaterally decided, I will ask my citizenry whether I should take the thing, right? The referendum is a game changer, and very soon, certainly when the referendum is held and when the yes vote arrives, CARICOM nations are going to have to get off the fence, because they're going to be unable, as a matter of principle, to deal with Venezuela on a business as usual basis.
Mr. Gordon, thank you very much for your time this morning. Kindly forgive me for that bit of laughter. It was a light moment in the midst of this serious conversation in regards to PriceSmart's bill and the use of credit cards. But overall, your column, which I encourage those to read, it is available online. You can simply look up the title of the column, TNT should not be engaging with Venezuela, or you can simply Google Orrin Gordon, and it's one of the first things that pop out. But thank you very much for your time this morning, sir. It has been an interesting conversation indeed. And need I say, in 1 month's time following the referendum, the need for a follow-up. Thank you, sir. All the best. Mr. Orrin Gordon, media consultant and newspaper columnist on the AM Prime this morning. December 3rd, that referendum takes place. According to Mr. Gordon, there is an expectation of a yes vote, following which, should that be the case, Venezuela's government is obligated to carry out or to execute such results or response from the referendum. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for AM Prime for today and for this week. I thank you very much for joining me, and I thank all my guests for their time and their generosity in sharing their knowledge and their experience with me this morning. I thank you, the viewer. It certainly is a pleasure being able to start my day with you, and thank you for the opportunity in regards to healthy conversations and at times vigorous debates. But I'm Keaton Shaw, wishing everyone a Shubh Diwali. May it be a great weekend, may it be a peaceful weekend, and may it be one that is full of reflection and hopefully only positive things. Because we can overcome challenges, we've proven time and time again that we can, but our mindset is our greatest enemy. And if we can have some level of paradigm shift, Trinidad and Tobago could be a sweeter place indeed. But Shub Diwali to all, and the richest of blessings to everyone across Trinidad and Tobago. Do have a good one, and I'll see you again next week for AM Prime. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I'm Andy Johnson, and you're watching WESN, the content capital.
The Woodbrook Pentecostal Church presents Foodie Fair on November 13th. Yes, the Diwali holiday. Come and experience our culinary extravaganza with live entertainment from Jaron Nurse, Blessed Messenger, and the Woodbrook Pentecostal Steel Orchestra. It's all happening at the Lions Cultural Center from 1 p.m. Come and get your barbecue chicken, your doubles, jerk chicken, roti, palori, and much, much more. Tickets only $300. Please call 622-4765 for more information. Foodie Fair!
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
Of Yemen, an act the Houthi rebels claimed as their own in a video release. The Iran-backed group, which control Yemen's capital Sana'a, have vowed to continue their military operations in support of Palestinians, doing so until Israel's bombardment stops against Hamas.
And violence continuing in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces raided the Palestinian city of Jenin and fought an hours-long battle with gunmen in which 14 people were killed. That marks one of the heaviest clashes the West Bank has seen in months, but 4 more Palestinians were also killed by Israeli soldiers in separate incidents elsewhere. That means at least 178 Palestinians, by some counts, have been killed in the West Bank since the war in Gaza began 5 weeks ago. Spain's acting Prime Minister, Socialist Pedro Sanchez, has agreed to an amnesty deal with the Catalan separatist party. It's a controversial deal, but the agreement looks set to clinch another 4 years in office for Sanchez. Conservative opponents have condemned the deal. For more, you can speak to our correspondent, Sarah Moore, standing by in Madrid. Hello to you, Sarah. What reactions have there been?
Well, we're still waiting for the detail of that amnesty law to be published. The law will be published at some stage and go to the Parliament. But that is concerning many judges and lawyers. And in fact, the 4 judges' associations, both progressive and conservative, they've unusually put out a joint statement in which they say that they are concerned about the term lawfare that was used in that 4-page deal signed between the Socialists and Junts. Lawfare is taken to mean the use of the law to go after political opponents, and that is something that judges says does not happen in a democratic country like Spain. They are worried about the suggestion that there would be commissions set up in the Parliament to look at cases against Catalan separatists that could be deemed to be lawfare. They say, and I quote, "In practice, that would mean subjecting the judicial procedures and decisions to a revision by the Parliament with a self-evident interference in judicial independence that breaks the separation of powers." And we've also seen a statement from tax inspectors. They absolutely reject the deal, and they say that the problem is that it rips up the constitutional bedrock of the tax system. And they may be concerned about the deal, talking at least, there's going to be a negotiation under this deal about whether the wealthy region of Catalonia can keep 100% of its taxes. And of course, part of the deal with the other Catalan separatist party, Esquerra, involves writing off 20% of the debt of Catalonia that's been lent by the central government. Concerns it. I'll give you a couple of headlines from the press. The left-wing press, some of them are headlining El País, for instance, a new phase for Catalonia, and they say that this is great news because it will ensure another 4 years of the Pedro Sanchez and left-wing government, and they say that it is good news. They say the deal means that the Catalan separatists are going to respect the constitution and come back to the negotiating table, but that view is not shared across the press. El Mundo, a centre-right newspaper, said this is a pact against the peaceful harmony of everyone, and they say that it's the first time that a prime minister has based his governance on somebody who is a fugitive, referring to Carles Puigdemont and the fact that he fled Spain to avoid facing the court system, and they call him a supremacist, and they say that he wants to make turn half the Catalans who disagree with him into foreigners in their own land. Scepticism and worry about this deal, which has brought tens of thousands out onto the street. Most of those protests have been peaceful, but we've seen a week where there have been violent protests in some circumstances outside the socialist headquarters.
Sarah, any idea about a timeline about when maybe Sanchez will go to the parliament?
He has just signed a deal with the Basque Nationalist Party, and he says that means he could have 179 votes to 171, and that means potentially he could go to the Parliament to seek its confidence as early as next week. And the dates that are being speculated on are next Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. Sarah Morris reporting from Madrid. There's been severe flooding in northern France after heavy rainfall. This just days after deadly storm Chiron had struck the coast. Villages have been evacuated as a nearby dike is threatening to give way. Take a look.
It's a race against time and the elements on this tributary of the Canche River, reinforcing the dike by every means possible to avoid flooding more villages.
The risk is that if the sluice gates fail, 10 hectares of water could reach the village below and the houses there in a single stroke. The risk is quite considerable.
Days of flooding have impacted about 60 municipalities in Pas-de-Calais and caused significant damage. On Thursday, another alert sounded, adding anguish for this couple.
It's an extreme flood alert. It's going to get even higher than it was on Monday. We'll see when we get back if the house is underwater or not. We're stressed and tired.
Residents have had to leave fast and take shelter, like in this town community center that's been turned into a dormitory. Retirees who evacuated Wednesday spent the night here, waiting for any information.
We're waiting for news to see if the dike will give way. That's the big problem.
An unbearable wait.
Yes, it's hard. It's hard when you leave your house. You don't know if it'll be there when you get back.
She said they've lived in their house 28 years. That entire time, they've never had issues with flooding.
It's our entire lives.
Lives now subject to the vagaries of the weather and new downpours.
When you see the forecast, it's not very encouraging.
Firefighters in the region have been preparing for more evacuations.
That's the news for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.
So, tell us about this new experience.
Well, it's my first time taking part in a catwalk show. I love Victor Wancinto. I love the label, and the designer started out at the same time as me. I grew up watching icons celebrating other icons as they all grew up together. I'm thinking of Madonna and Jean-Paul Gaultier, Gaga, McQueen. So when Wancinto asked me to come and take part, it was an honor to say yes. We are part of the new generation, and we're planning on sticking around.
Victor Vincento studied fashion in Paris before going on to work with Jean-Paul Gaultier. He later went on to found his own exuberant label. And for his summer 2024 ready-to-wear show, he's getting a little help from his friends.
It's a really diverse cast. We tend to always see the same thing, but I love being surrounded by people I love and who inspire me, and I'm loyal to them.
How many looks are there?
20 or 25? Around 20.
So, 2,000 looks. They tell which story?
It's called Perfect Day. It's inspired by the way, you know, on your wedding day or when a baby's born, we have expectations. We tell ourselves that it's going to be a perfect day, and that's not always the case. I wanted to pay tribute to that with a slightly jaunty take on things. So I went for big structures, with big windblown hair with drops of water. You know, there's a saying in French, mariage pluvieux, mariage heureux, which means rain on your wedding day is good luck. And it's those ideas that I try to turn into couture.
With some haute couture thrown in, think pieces of sculpted jewellery made from spun glass.
So you have a blowtorch and a concentrating hub. You heat up little sticks of glass that become liquid, and then you can shape flower petals that we then solder one after another. It takes a lot of time and a lot of love to turn into what you're going to see in the show.
The remarkable technical work is coupled with flamboyant silhouettes, a carefully considered sartorial language that also carries a strong message.
The message is one of tolerance, accepting yourself. It's about fluidity and above all, about freedom of expression. To be who we are, to show our communities a form of representation that will give people examples they can use as a foundation to defend causes that aren't only about identity, but also about what it means to be human. It's about accepting people for who they are, not judging, and leaving people in peace.
You wanted it to be timeless and universal.
Timeless, universal, but it's also a little wake-up call, because we have a tendency to think that things we fought hard to win will always be that way. The reality is that we can quickly find ourselves repeating bad habits. It's important to remind people.
Bad habits like fashion's enormous problem with waste. Kevin Germanier is a champion of what can best be described as the opposite of growth. He loves buying cut-price fabrics from Nona Source, a sales platform for unused textile stock, set up by luxury goods group LVMH.
There's a lot of new stuff. We worked with tulle from Nona Source, so we were upcycling. All the feathers are new, but we really worked with feather waste, like with those little pom-poms you saw. That's not usually something you see. Feather workers don't ever use that bit because it's seen as waste. I've got 11 new prints, including some prints I've done onto sequins. What else? I don't even remember. There's some knitting by moms, grandmas, that we've used in our accessories. Tops that were featured in Amplia in Paris. We really put an emphasis on accessories. Lots of new stuff, because I'm also very keen to show that Germanier isn't just a one-shot wonder. We're here to stay.
Alain Paul has always expressed himself boldly, first as a dancer with La Horde, the collective that heads up the Marseille National Ballet, then as a stylist with the Guazalia brothers at their label Vêtements. And most recently, alongside his husband, he was able to launch his own label with a backdrop no less impressive than Paris's Théâtre du Châtelet.
Here's my husband. He's also part of the label.
And you both work on it together?
We work together. Alain is the designer, so he works on the label's aesthetic.
And this is your first collection?
It's my first collection.
It's extremely structural.
Very. We play with the rules. I wanted to accentuate the beauty of the discipline, that rigor that I grew up with. The entire first part of the show respects the traditional codes of tailoring and the pencil skirt. It mirrors how one learns to dance. Like, you start with classical dance, and then you develop into contemporary. And that's why afterwards the show completely shifts gear.
Some shoes are very much inspired by dance shoes.
Yes. The end of the shoe is inspired by being on point, like in ballet. But the shape has been worked so that we understand the effort experienced when wearing this shoe. You see the deformation of the bone and the shoe that deforms around the bone, which is a little exaggerated on the shoe. That was the intention, at least.
It's all about the body and movement.
Exactly. It's about the choreography of clothes around the body.
Regarde caméra.
Vincenzo Germanier and Alain Paul, 3 new generation designers determined to seize the zeitgeist in style.
WESN.
Diwali Passport, brought to you by the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago and Chatak Food Products.
It comes naturally to us, unstoppable energy. We share it. We use it to live better. We are manifesting a green and sustainable future. NGC, pursuing sustainability at the forefront of energy.
When it comes to Pira and Laddu, I just use Chatak's Laddu and Pira Mithai Mix. It's a combination of traditional ingredients in one pack. I don't spend all that time preparing different ingredients like Ma. 3/4 of the work is done. So now I can make fresh, delicious Pira and Laddu in about 15 minutes with the convenience of Chatak's Laddu and Pira Mithai Mix. Now Ma's kitchen is a Chatak kitchen. Now available Gulab Jamun Instant Mithai Mix.
The Festival of Lights glows once again in many nations. Let's take a trip and find the interesting variations. Some are quiet and simple, and others filled with family and friends. Join us now for Diwali Passport on WESN. Our passports are stamped, and we're all set to fly away to another Diwali adventure. On this trip, we journey to the 3rd most populous island in Oceania, New Zealand. New Zealand is an island country and one of the many islands that make up Oceania. It is located in the South Pacific Ocean, to the southeast of Australia, south of New Caledonia, Fiji, and Tonga Islands. Here, Hinduism is one of the fastest growing religions, with Hindus standing at 2.65% of the New Zealand population, which translates to approximately 120,000 people in a population of over 5 million. The first Hindu settlers in New Zealand were sepoys, or Indian soldiers, in the 19th century. These settlers were from the regions of Punjab and Gujarat in India. Later, Hindu migrants came from other areas of India, as well as from Sri Lanka, Malaysia, South Africa, and Australia. In New Zealand, Diwali is celebrated with great pomp and festivity among the Hindu, Jain, and Sikh communities. The occasion is marked by the hosting of several festivals and events. One of the most attended events is the BNZ Auckland Diwali Festival. The BNZ Auckland Diwali Festival is a free, family-friendly event held annually and dubbed their Festival of Lights. The event is considered New Zealand's premier Indian cultural festival, and it attracts over 60,000 attendees every year. This Diwali festival is held on the Saturday and Sunday before the actual Diwali observance. During the 2-day festival, cultural performances are highlighted, and stalls prepare and sell Indian delicacies and craft. Leading up to Diwali, a series of events are also hosted in various locations across New Zealand, including Christchurch and Auckland. These events feature Indian food vendors, music, and cultural activities. In the evening, the attendees are also treated to incredible fireworks displays. In New Zealand, Diwali is observed over a 5-day period, just like in other regions, and different activities are performed on each day. On the first day, Diwali is known as Dhanteras. Devotees clean and decorate their homes, engage in the worship of Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of light and prosperity. Lord Dhanvantari, the deity presiding over Ayurveda, is also honored. The purchase of precious metals, stones, and new garments are encouraged on this day. The second day is Narak Chaturdashi or Choti Diwali, Small Diwali. On this day, Lord Krishna is honored for his victory over the demon Narakasura, thus setting the world free from all dread. During Narak Chaturdashi, it is prescribed that devotees massage their bodies with oil, bathe the body, and rest to prepare for the following big day of Diwali celebrations. The third day of Diwali is the festival's main day. Houses are decorated, diyas are lit, mithai or sweets and food prepared as families come together for puja. On this day, devotees worship Lord Ganesh and Mother Lakshmi. They revere Lakshmi as a symbol of wealth and success. The occasion also marks Lord Ram's triumph over the wicked king Ravan and his return to his kingdom Ayodhya. Thus, firecrackers are set off, diyas are lit, and sweets are traded as signals of celebration. The fourth day of Diwali is Govardhan Puja Day. As New Zealand has a heavy Gujarati presence, this day is celebrated with grand festivities at the Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Auckland. During the worship, Lord Krishna is praised for his heroic act of lifting the Govardhan Hill and providing refuge to residents during torrential downpours. During the observance, devotees offer a mountain of food, metaphorically representing the Govardhan Hill. The fifth and final day of Diwali is called Bhai Dooj. On this day, brothers customarily visit their sisters. Sisters tie a sacred thread to the wrist of brothers and feed them sweets. In return, brothers offer gifts to sisters as a sign of their love. And with this festival, Diwali in New Zealand comes to an end. Thank you for coming along with us on our Diwali trip to New Zealand. I'm Shamji. Join us again for another adventure soon, here on WESN's Diwali Passport.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We share it. We use it to live better. We are manifesting a green and sustainable future. NGC, pursuing sustainability at the forefront of energy.
I just love Diwali. I put everything in place so my home is perfect for this season. And thanks to the little store, I get everything in one place. I picked up some Anand and Shankar brand wax diyas, hand-painted clay diyas, my coconut oil, cotton wicks, all my puja items, plus step-by-step guide to Diwali puja and Havan. My home will look and feel like Diwali with pretty hanging decorations, floating lights, rangolis and flowers, all from the little store. I'm all set to welcome Lakshmi Ma and all my guests. I've ordered some delicious fresh mithai in decorated boxes and bags and got some frozen vegetarian products, spices, all my groceries and hygienic paper sohari leaves for a delectable Diwali feast. Go to the little store in Curep. They've got additional parking and they're open on Sundays. Check them on Facebook or call 663-4415.
Diwali Passport was brought to you by the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago and the Little Store Limited.
WESN. Here's the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. San Fernando Chamber Kiran Singh says crime is having a negative impact on businesses. Residents facing water woes receive hope amid recent downpours. Regionally, Grenada unveils underwater sculptures at Molyneux Park. Now for the details. Crime is having a negative impact on businesses in TNT, and if something is not done soon, it will have serious consequences on the economy. This according to President of the San Fernando Chamber, Kiran Singh. He says that statistically speaking, crime has been having a negative impact on businesses and investor confidence in the country as murders and robberies continue to escalate and home invasions continue to increase. He stated that while the chamber noticed that the president sought to alleviate the situation by providing help for the TTPS via the Defense Force, however, this would have challenges. He lamented the fact that criminals responded by invading the homes of those who chose to take the advice to lock up early, sometimes with dire consequences. Residents in Arima grappling with water supply challenges can expect some reprieve, thanks to recent heavy rainfall, according to assurances from the Water Sewerage Authority. The disruption in water service, attributed to a shortfall of 5 million gallons per day at the Hollis Reservoir, has impacted areas including Valencia, Arima, Aruca, La Ferrasante, and others. Arima Mayor Baliram Maharaj shared that WASA has taken proactive measures by tapping into water sources in Guanapo and Aripo to supplement the deficiency at the Hollis Reservoir. In collaboration with the Public Utilities Minister, efforts are underway to involve additional contractors in delivering truck-borne water to affected residents. To address the shortfall, WASA has initiated the drilling of 3 wells in Aripo, further contributing to the ongoing efforts to alleviate the water supply challenges faced by the affected communities. Regionally, Grenada's Tourism Authority recently revealed the triumphant realization and placement of a groundbreaking initiative, bringing a unique blend of art and marine conservation to the crystal clear waters of Grenada. Guided by the creative vision of sculptor Jason K.S. Taylor, a total of 31 mesmerizing underwater sculptures have been carefully immersed and positioned within the Molyneux Underwater Sculpture Park. Well, that's it. News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Good morning, folks. This is Talking Point here on WSN, your content capital show. I'm Michael Small here, starting off the show solo, but we won't be ending the show solo. So, have, of course, our Friday contributor join us, as well as a not so much of a surprise, somewhat special, not so special co-host. We'll see when we come back after the break. But in the meantime, let's start off today's daily review. And some interesting developments depending on how you perceive things happening in the media today. First off, a former Attorney General, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, senior counsel, he's defending the DPP. The whole situation with the DPP is still up in the air, although I say that knowing full well the irony of the fact that there's a lot of situations still up in the air, like Paria, like Brent Thomas, like 2 suspects falling out of a chair, like ANV drilling and the lack of appeal. More on that well, slightly later, or rather just now. Now, what's interesting, of course, is Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj occupies an interesting position. He was the attorney defending ANV drilling from the state's case. Also, he was the AG of the administration headed under the other political party in the country. So one has to, you know, to some extent, question if he has biases on whatever political position he takes, or rather whatever position he takes on any potential political issue. And this is somewhat of a political issue with the DPP situation. Now, the senior counsel, he has basically decided, and it doesn't seem that this is in conjunction with anybody else, at least publicly. That's what he's stating. He looked into the matter himself to comment on it. So take that for what you will. And he's basically saying, look, the DPP can't be blamed for this expenditure because by his estimation, based on what he has seen, heard, uncovered, and we don't necessarily know the veracity of his sources, but by his estimation, the DPP did not have a hand in selecting this building. The DPP did not have a hand with regards to determining when to make the payments, and potentially was not aware that the agreement was locked in, and the DPP has ultimately serious concerns. One of the things that is under contention, I believe, from the government is the fact that work was done to fortify the site, the building on Park Street, particularly the glass windows on the east side, because of its location and proximity to certain hot spots in East Port of Spain. Now, the thing about it is, the argument is being made that, listen, it's fine for 9mm rounds, and that's pistol ammunition. That's a very standard pistol ammunition. It's not a high-powered pistol ammunition, much less for high-powered rifle rounds, which within the last 2 to 3 mass weapon confiscations, we would have seen 5.5, 7.62, as well as 50 cal rifles being confiscated. So to some extent, the concerns has practical reasons for being there. The firepower in order to, you know, penetrate lower-level ballistic glass, I guess you could say, potentially, if it's only actually rated to stop 9mm rounds, is there. And we've seen the level of violence increasing. It's not just the murder rate, it's how it's being done, right? There was also the incidents where the AG, somebody apparently or allegedly shot at one of the windows of the Office of the Attorney General. Notice how much more concrete the front of that building or the walls of that building has compared to the building on Park Street, which was a former bank branch, has a significant amount of glass on the northeast corner. So it's interesting that the senior counsel has decided to come out to defend the DPP. This is one of those issues I think some people might be underestimating because it only pops up every now and then into the media. But at the end of the day, now the question is, who are we going to blame for the expenditure of $55 million for nothing? For nothing. I think that's the key point that we need to understand. Nothing was gained by that expenditure. So who do we hold to account? And I will say this again, it all depends on what does the paper trail say with regards to the DPP's involvement. According to the senior counsel, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, who during the ANV case, one could speculate maybe it is alleged that, you know, the Prime Minister had no issues with him then. So it'll be interesting to see if his statements will cause any further responses on the situation. Apparently, one of the daily newspapers managed to get a comment from Dr. Heath Rowley over the senior counsel statements, of which Dr. Rowley basically, he is reported to have responded with a one-word answer, really. Well, yes, really, because even if the senior counsel didn't make these comments, a lot of those questions are still valid. All right, moving on to the next topic. And this kind of goes hand in hand because has been reported that the president's residence, the unoccupied residence, so we're not talking about the actual official residence, but her actual home that I assume she occupied before being appointed president of Trinidad and Tobago, that is under guard. That is under guard by 2 police officers on 4-hour shifts from the Belmont police station, and it has been reported through anonymous channels or anonymous sources that police officers are not necessarily happy with this situation because, one, it takes away from the available manpower for the Belmont police station to conduct patrols. And they point to crimes that happen in the area in Belmont and in St. Anne's in the report, as well as having allegedly the only mobile police unit. So that would be the large truck, like a mobile post or command center, maybe not so much of a command center, but the only one that apparently is available to the Northern Division. I don't know if you know, the fact that they only have one available, I don't necessarily know if that's good or bad. Doesn't necessarily sound good, but c'est la vie. Apparently the officers, again, these are through unofficial and anonymous sources, are complaining about the fact that, look, why is it that station officers are having to carry out this assignment, and instead of either Defense Force personnel or guard and emergency branch? And first of all, I like to, and official communication channels basically say, well, the cops are not upset, and they're basically saying there's nothing to see here, right? The Social Welfare Association is basically saying, you know, they don't necessarily want their officers to see this as a menial task that is not necessary. Now, the thing is, the task itself is necessary. That's fine, ASP Gideon Dixon. That is fine because, ironically speaking, we might not want to admit it, but given the level of violence, combined with the political rhetoric that we get, and unfortunately, or rather ironically again, it's not necessarily from the president. You know, it's not that she says any sort of bombastic rhetoric that could cause any sort of inflaming the tension, so to speak. But we have very much a two-sided political divide, right? Let's just be real. When you, at least with the anonymity of social media, people will comment some of the, well, quite frankly, most disgusting things that are completely unnecessary. Now, in that setup, I am concerned about people taking things too far. So I can understand, listen, even though her residence isn't occupied, you don't want people to have free access to it. You can never tell when, for whatever reason, you know, a family member, the president herself, even after retirement, she's going to return to that residence, and somebody might decide that they want to do something for the sake of doing something. Don't mind that it might not really be practical. I mean, at the end of the day, she's not part of the executive. She's part of the executive, but she's not part of the executive, right? If you know what I mean. She doesn't actually set policy decisions. So, but she could still be a target. So I get it. And I do wonder to some extent, you know, if we're sort of taking for granted how safe our country has been all this time with the escalating crime. However, I don't know, first of all, on the surface, it's a bad look without further explanation. At least that's my initial thoughts about it, right? And then on top of that, it just goes to show, look, it's not as though her residence is in a hot spot. It's not like if it's in Enterprise, or if it's in Mobile Aventil, or if it's in C-Lot. You know, it's, well, it's in Cascade. Generally speaking, Cascade is an easily controlled area, so crime levels vary, right? Unless there's a specific target. There's not so much random crime, at least in my opinion, because I live around Cascade. And it's not like the situation with the DPP's office, right? So I have no problem with this expense and understanding the practical realities of safety. However, let's kind of be fair about it. The DPP had concerns that came from, I believe, Guard and Emergency Branch. So the other thing is, again, this begs the question, what is the regiment doing? I don't know. But maybe they could be doing this. Why can't they be doing this? I mean, honestly, that question I also could understand. You don't really want to put soldiers on their own to interact with civilians in a police enforcement setting, security settings even, you know, because they're technically not trained for that. That's all. You could potentially train a detail to do it and let them do it. Do they not want to do it? I don't know. But if crime is out of control, I think taking it for granted that, hey, yeah, we could just send officers to do this extra task, that's not a problem. The irony, of course, is on some level, it should actually be an easy task. So the fact that officers are complaining, you know, if officers don't want to work, it's like, yeah, just go here and watch this building, you don't have to do nothing, right? If they're complaining, it does make me wonder if these actually might be some of the officers that are like, no, I actually want to go and deal with crime and not just babysit an empty house. There are other people that could technically do that. Can't fault them for that. If that is the motivation and intention behind these anonymous statements. Anonymous. Let's just remember that as well. So to prove their veracity, that's not so easy. Next story. Just wanted to finish up some observations on the Muruga murder trial. Of course, the WPC, the witness that was granted immunity, her testimony ended yesterday, and nothing necessarily new was added, but the defense kind of maybe piled on a little bit more to some extent, but pointed out the fact that, look, she's junior to the unit. How is she either threatening other officers or making decisions and shot calling? And I think at the end of the day, there are implications about this trial, and maybe this is why nobody wants to comment about active investigations and active cases before the courts, because if anything goes wrong, it'll be difficult to explain. I don't necessarily understand how anybody could say that this situation is going right. It seems as though, without further explanation, that a witness whose testimony was important enough to be granted immunity in this matter, because at the end of the day, one way or the other, she was there, her gun was there, she didn't stop it, she was to some extent a part of it, etc., of a triple murder. And you don't just give people immunity for minor concessions, right? You give them immunity on a major crime when they have major testimony to give. And by all accounts, she had major testimony to give, except she didn't give it. It was read from a deposition from an earlier part of the process. And then on top of that, it contradicts the statement that was given to the DPP, signed by her. So how this was allowed to happen by the prosecutor, I'm going to say it again, the questions about that, but also there are further implications. If she is acting in good faith and speaking in good faith, and her concerns about her safety are valid, this is not necessarily a good look for future potential deals of granting immunity, and of course, that will come automatically with the caveat of, I need to be kept safe if I'm going to testify against people. Now, the thing about it is, in this situation, is it necessarily about safety or security, or is it about her job security, depending on if she'll, I don't know. Technically, she's not convicted, right? So I don't know if she will be allowed to continue being a police officer given her involvement in this case. I would think not. But again, is it that whole one squad, one song mentality that is affecting her judgment here? It could be peer pressure, it could be more than peer pressure. So now we're not talking about criminals. It's one thing to snitch on criminals. You expect them to threaten you. But now, is she fearful of her safety? Because potentially her workplace interaction that's all gone, right? That's all over. You already have a deposition out there and statements out there giving testimony, right? So your work colleagues, even if you still had a job in the police service, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to look at you good. But chances are that's all over. So who exactly is she afraid of? And what is she afraid of? Workplace bullying and workplace reprisals? I think it's safe to assume that's not really on the table. So what is she afraid of? What is she afraid of? Who could be threatening her? There's a lot of implications from this trial. I don't like it. But we'll see. Maybe everybody will hide behind the whole, it's an active case. We can't talk about it. And then by the time they talk about it, the benefits of talking about it will not be achieved or will not be realized or will not be experienced. That's the problem. Yeah, they'll talk about it eventually, whatever. Insert case X here. The benefits of being proactive in communication with regards to the perception of your organization, of your process, of your systems, of your work, of your integrity, of your transparency, right? All of those benefits go up in smoke. As much as the public won't harp on it anymore, they also, well, in the back of their mind, just think less of you permanently, for all intents and purposes. The stain will no longer be able to be removed. You can't correct the situation after that. They'll be more tolerant of it, they'll be more accepting of it, but the stain will be there. And just want to wrap things up with the last story. The Supermarkets Association has pointed out that the increase in electricity rates for supermarkets might be even higher than we, the public, might think. Given the electricity usage, it might potentially go from commercial actually up to industrial, as well as affecting other parts of the food chain, like food production locally, as well as importation of food, particularly frozen food, all of these things, and then frozen food and chilled food in the supermarket. All of these things require a high amount of electricity. Those costs potentially could be transferred onto the consumer, and it could also be experienced by the consumer in the fact that certain foodstuff like frozen foods, their importation bills might be higher, so less might be imported. So that might then turn into shortages of certain items, depending. That might then turn into other pressures towards food inflation. So it'll be interesting to see. This apparently or potentially is a shot across the government's bow by the Supermarket Association. Hey, you're making this decision. Just be careful of the implications on food inflation. Just be careful. Now, to what extent should the decision take that into account? Because other Caribbean nations have high cost of electricity and they're managing. So that's the argument to say, whoa, it's not that bad. But the flip side is, could we experience all of it all at once? So how will the government implement this? Governments of TNT, never known for their implementation skills. All right, folks, let's take a break. When we come back, we welcome the rest of the panel and continue Talking Points on WASN television with a difference in HD. We'll be right back.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain. The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And joining me to my left and right, first, she is one of the 40 under 40 of the Ministry of Youths and National Service. Youth Development and National Service. Thank you for that. Janelle John Bates, attorney at law, youth influencer.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Long time no see.
Of course, don't preempt the introduction. To my right is my one and only esteemed co-host and host of AM Prime on WSN 6 a.m. in the mornings, Mr. Kitan Shah.
Hi, Kitan.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning,
Janelle.
morning.
Hello, Janelle. It's good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been.
Since Janelle is a 40 under 40, am I the only under 40-year-old that's over the age of 40?
What? Yeah, you're like a 50 under 20.
More or less.
Or 50 under 30. Yeah. It makes sense, folks. It makes sense, folks. If you ever meet Keaton and you hear the type of music that he is most in love with, he is definitely a 50 under 30.
Or somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there.
Anyway, guys, there's a lot that's happened in the last few months that I haven't had the privilege of talking to Janelle about. But I'll tell you what, let's just narrow down to what's happened within the last week or two.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we were looking at potentially to speak about and expand on is the data hack situation. Because I think it's one of those things where we might underestimate it or be underestimating it as a society a little bit, because it's not necessarily the first time. And you had to remind me of there was at least one other situation within the government. And also there were some famous situations that we spoke about in the past when it happened with private sector with regards to data hacks. One of the things is we have a whole Ministry of Digital Transformation. And we're trying to transition, bureaucracy and administrative processes and record keeping to digital platforms. And TSCT just got hacked. TSCT just got hacked, and we don't even necessarily know as the public exactly how bad it is, because the messaging, they would say, no, it isn't this bad, and then more details came out.
The messaging initially was there was no hack.
Well, there was no hack.
There was no hack was the first message. It's now reached to this is a national security issue.
And then now...
It took 6 weeks to get to that point.
With implications to how far could this go?
Yeah, indeed.
So it actually makes me wonder at what point did the minister actually find out there was a hack? It seems as though he was the last individual to find out. Oh my goodness.
Well, he wasn't the last. We were the last. He was probably second to
last.
I
think the citizens had an understanding before, because one individual whose column I read all the time, he posted it to his Twitter feed. That made the news. That eventually made the news. And that's when the minister says, wait, there was no hack. That's not true. So the minister coming out and saying it when it was in the news, saying there was no hack. I think he was the first, the last actually to find out.
To be fair to the minister, I think one of the things he said was there was no ransomware attack, which is technically true from what I understand. No ransom was demanded to not release the information. That's usually kind of how it goes. You get hacked and you are locked out of your systems, or information is stolen and they say, well, if you don't want this released to the public, you have to pay us this money. If you want access back to your systems, you have to pay us this money. I think some of the more recent incidents in the news in North America when, utilities got hacked or stuff like that, that was the example.
Does ransomware stem from a hack, Sean? Because you have to hack it.
But the ransom is important. It's
I know it's important.
You could some people, they just steal it for fun. Some people steal it for the money. So I think that's what Sean's trying to
more importantly,
so I don't know if he's trying to say the minister was being technical about it.
No, I could see where... one of the things that I think about is similar to how you don't want to tell people no, right, with the situation with the PS. The thing is, I could see where like a technocrat under the minister giving him advice wants to say, well, you know, there was no ransomware attack. You know, and technically
it was just
that's
a hack,
true,
not a ransomware
right?
attack.
Well, I don't know even if the minister was aware of the distinction, right? And this is assuming that the report of him saying there was no ransomware attack was all he said on the matter, right? But I'm just saying, so I could see where there might have been some confusion at the end of the day. I'm not very confident that politicians in TNT are very much aware of a lot of technical aspects, especially with IT.
But is it politicians? And that's one thing I found arising out of this whole the cybersecurity issue in Trinidad and Tobago. I feel like the general public, society as a whole, we are not au courant with cybersecurity, and I don't know if we are very up to date with how far or how concerned we should be. Because I was actually speaking to someone who is in IT, and I asked them, I said, so have you been following the attack, the hack? What are your thoughts on it? And they said to me, well, honestly, you know, I haven't really been following it because I've been bombarded by everything else going on in this country. But on top of that, two things that came out of the discussion with that person. One, because you were not given the full information, you were not even really, one, you're not sure if your information is out there. And then two, if your information is out there, what next? What can you do? So it's like you're at a loss. So why be concerned in a sense about something you don't even know if it's out there, and if it's out there, how do you even treat with it? So I feel like there's a lack of information all around, generally as to our understanding about cybersecurity. And two, if your information is out there. And three, how to deal with your information being out there. How can you protect yourself? So I feel it's just a general lack of information.
I'll also add four, like, you don't know what the risks are. So
well, that's it. That's
and that goes in hand with protecting yourself, right?
Yes.
If I don't know what could happen to my information, how am I going to safeguard it against certain things?
I understand very much what you guys are saying, and I agree. I think there's generally a lack of understanding as to cyber protection, cyber security at this point in time, especially when you live in a digital world. In regards to the actual focus, which is TSTT overall, I would have hoped that TSTT, which is very much integral to national security, would have been the company that would make sure that it has all its things up to scratch. So to break it down before we get into some observations in regards to what can be done, one, I'll make it simple. I am not at all pleased nor satisfied with TSTT's response to this entire situation.
As am I.
I think they've done a great disservice to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because your response, one, I can't judge it, because at what point in time did you all realize, oh my goodness, we've lost 6 gigs of data, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the information that was released, that is important.
Correct.
Beyond that,
I just want to point out, 6 gigs of text data actually should be a lot, because a text file, a list is not that big.
No, people might say it doesn't sound like a lot.
People don't even know what gigs are.
Precisely my point. So that's what I'm saying.
So what is a gig anyway?
People say it's not going to sound like a lot.
If it's just a file with information like your name and so on, so it would require a lot of information for it to be 6 gigs.
But anyway,
I'm also not satisfied with the response given by the Minister of Public Utilities. However, at this point in time, it's now a matter of processing exactly what has happened and what needs to be done. The Minister also indicated, I think it was the Minister as well as TSTT, that no sensitive data was leaked. But who deems it as sensitive? Exactly. What is deemed as sensitive? As far as I'm concerned, in this day and age that we're living in, my address where I live is sensitive information. Now, I'm also getting conflicting reports in regards to whether or not credit card information was also made there. Again, let me make it clear, I have not looked at any of the information that was leaked, and I'm refusing to, because as far as I'm concerned, me accessing that is still illegal, by the way. So people who are encouraging others to go look at it, that's illegal.
But that also includes the media, because I found it very irresponsible for newspapers to be printing, because I think at one point the Prime Minister, I don't know if it's on information, said, well, no, my information isn't out there. It's another Keith Rowley in my family. Then a newspaper proceeds to prove by showing the information and showing how they cross-checked it with other information to show that it's the Prime Minister's information. Why is it necessary to prove that this person's information is out there, that person's information is out there?
And that's
why are we sharing that?
There was a certain level of responsibility where in your reporting you can make a very good case without, you don't have to share all such information.
Yes. With pictures and screenshots.
I refused to look at the information. But apart from that, if there is credit card information, that is a breach of TSTT's agreement, not only with their clients and customers, but also with the bank, because such information is not to be kept. Such transactions, that information in regard to credit card information is not to be kept.
And we don't know why was the credit card information there? Could it be, was it, you know, sometimes they ask you for proof of address and you can bring in a bank statement. So if it's like that, they would keep that on file.
A bank statement.
So they would keep it on file, meaning to say.
Bear that in mind. I'm looking at all possibilities because I have not gone and looked at the actual data. I'm refusing to. And apart from which, if there was credit card information there, I would have hoped, and this is why I'm saying TSTT's response has been utterly poor, that such information would have been encrypted. Now, bear in mind, we're speaking about hackers here and ransomware who will do absolutely everything to decrypt such. But still, with those procedures in place, then TSTT also said we immediately enacted our emergency procedures. What are such emergency procedures?
Well, they're not going to tell you that, but I did find their response poor. Their response was, terrible. Well, it's really our, what is it, a legacy database that was affected. You know, this information is outdated. But then the people who have been sifting through the information prove that the information is not really outdated.
Folks, if you actually ever get into contact with, say, politicians or a lot of the people who are high-profile individuals in the country, they have email addresses from Hotmail that dates back to who knows when, phone numbers that date back to some of the first cell phone numbers given out by TSTT. So how outdated would the information be with regards to things like that, with regards to contact information? A lot of it will still be relevant.
And outdated information, if you want to call it outdated, is still important, because what hackers do is that they use all the information on you to build a profile on you, which makes it easier for them to then
identity theft.
Not besides even identity theft, do phishing. They can now, because they have more information, they can target the thing to you, so it doesn't come across as generic. You see this, their client and something, you're like, oh no, definitely a scam. But if it sounds, they have personal information about you, or they can manipulate it so it sounds very targeted. Providing all of this information builds a profile on you.
This is why this is a situation that cannot be downplayed. Because the sensible commentary that I've heard thus far in this entire thing was from IT experts who are not necessarily affiliated with the government. And to the Prime Minister made a valid point. This is a matter of national security. It can affect us. Again, TSTT is linked to our national security apparatus. And my question is, if it's a matter of national security, are even you as Prime Minister satisfied with the response thus far? There seems to be no urgency. There seems to be something of kicking this under the carpet and trying to bury it and forget about it. That is the impression that I'm getting. I can only say that personally, I'm not aware of any accounts that I hold with TSTT, so I hope in that regard I'm safe.
Well, I started to think about it. I did have a post-paid plan some years ago that I stopped, I don't know, 6, 7, I don't know how many years ago, but I don't remember what information I would have provided to them.
One of the things that we also have to remember is the modern business model for certain tech companies, right, like social media, is literally the information of the users, right? So that they could then leverage that for marketing purposes. So now we have to ask, okay, maybe it wasn't done to the same extent by legacy business models like telecommunications, physical telecommunication companies or other types of companies. But at the end of the day, are they going to just, look, they kept this legacy database, right? If it's outdated information, shouldn't it cost you money to keep it? Right? To store it, to have it? Why are you keeping it for?
I mean, there are some arising out of money laundering concerns and whatever, there is a requirement to keep customer information for a minimum of 6 years. So there are some laws that require you to keep information for a period of time, your records.
The implication of this is it's older than 6 years.
Well, I don't know. They said a legacy database. I did not hear what is a legacy database. I don't know how old.
I would think a database that is a legacy database would be older than 6 years.
You would think.
I would think.
Don't know.
I would think. But the other thing is, to me though, this is similar to the DPP situation where I'm not necessarily going to jump on the bandwagon of, oh my gosh, just look how bad it is, look how bad. Bad in the sense I'll agree that I think this could just be incompetence. So as much as you're saying there's no sense of agency with the response, I'm like, maybe they don't know how to respond, so they can't be agents.
These recent attacks have been showing up vulnerabilities in both our public and private institutions, and I think perhaps those in positions of authorities in both these institutions do not want to talk about it that much because it calls their security apparatus, cyber and otherwise, into question. And we don't want people asking too much questions because, as you said, maybe we didn't think about it. It would have been a sip. Listen, let me give an anecdotal piece of information. So I was talking to the same person who works in a private company. He had an IT background before. He was passing through the IT department and saw one of the IT professionals with all the Wi-Fi passwords just stick up on their desk. And he was like, ma'am, you can't have the company Wi-Fi password just stuck there. And this is one of the largest companies in our country. And that is how their IT professionals are treating passwords. What do you think?
Because all you need...
And this is somebody who has training in IT.
Did you just use the word professional?
All you need is an office photograph, right? Let's take a photo. Let's take a selfie, guys. And we all gather by the phone, take a photo, and that just happens to be the background. That's how hackers could get the information too.
So this shows me that, I don't know, maybe our IT professionals need to buck up generally.
Well, hold on. There's a difference between IT and IT security.
But
you
to
know,
me,
that's
but IT professionals still. But
no, it does. But
that's minimum of training, I would think.
The guy that changes your brakes is not always going to be qualified to change the electrical system in your car.
Okay, but isn't that as basic? There's something basic that anybody who deals with cars, we as individuals should know not to have our passwords exposed. Why would you need to tell an IT professional
Listen,
that?
I will tell you that a simple little thing, and this is probably extending the conversation a bit, is that even when it comes to public Wi-Fi hotspots, I do not connect to those.
I know you're not supposed to, but I do.
No,
I do too.
Rituals and Starbucks?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. But I'm rituals, Starbucks.
Don't get me wrong, I understand sometimes in a jam you need to, but I do my absolute best not to connect to those networks, because even connecting to such open networks leads to vulnerability, especially if you've got information on your phone and sensitive information. Again, is what you deem as sensitive information, because I'm still trying to figure out what they mean no sensitive information is.
Well, I think they were saying it's not so much, they said it was information that wasn't confidential. So I think they were saying they were trying to they were saying it's information that you can find in other places.
Yes, a telephone directory, right?
Well, that, and like I guess your driver's permit. Like they were saying you can't find out this information otherwise, but you still need some information in order to access the other information.
At the end of the day, some of the information that Facebook has on its user base, you could access through other channels, but a lot of the value comes in the fact that, hey, we have all of it here.
Yes, but we come accumulating.
So then the other thing is that, let's take a look at some of the responses. And the first thing the minister said is that he's actually spoken to the chairman of TSTT, Mr. Roger Roach, and he's indicated that TSTT's board is to carry out or to have, let me not say the board is to carry it out, but they're the ones that act an independent probe. And I'm thinking, how independent is an independent probe if the board is the one that's actually supposed to carry out?
Because wouldn't the board be to some extent responsible, not directly obviously, the CEO is more directly, but they're still part of the chain, right?
It kind of goes back to what Janelle was saying in regards to they tell you what they want to tell you, and just hold on.
That sounds like something that was said off air.
And apart from that, no, but that is something of which I have said, Sean has said, and you have said many times on the show. People tend to tell you what they want to tell you, and I'm not talking about a particular body or institution. I'm talking about all around here in Trinidad. Half the time when you see these videos on social media, people filming what they want to film.
Well,
right? So, just using it generally. The point I'm trying to make is, if these institutions do not want to speak too much about cybersecurity because of the vulnerabilities that it would expose, of which we have a fair understanding and idea, I don't necessarily expect TSTT's board, who is politically appointed, to actually have an independent probe. I can't say that I expect that to happen. So we will see what happens there. We will see what comes out of it. Then there's another call in regards to removing the CEO and another gentleman who works in TSTT. I forgot his name.
I think he's the
now.
operations officer, chief operations.
Right.
I can't remember.
Would it not be the CIO and the CEO?
It's
either that.
It slips my mind now, and please forgive me. Now, there obviously will be questions around the operations within the company, and the CEO has responsibility. But I want to get to the department that is in charge with this, and I need to know the information in regards to the running of the department, whether or not they are fully staffed, whether they are resourced in terms of equipment and technology to deal with situations like that. Because then that goes back to the CEO, and that goes to the board of TSTT, and of course the minister has to be aware of that as well. Now, the minister is making the claims that he does not have the authority to remove the CEO. And in a sense, he's actually correct. It's actually the board that has the power to appoint or remove a CEO. But then again, the chairman of the board is taking instructions from the minister in regards to an independent probe. So the minister in some way does have indirect power or indirect say.
But the minister can say conduct an investigation. The minister can just jump out himself, as we say in Trinidad, without any information and say fire the person. He can't do that. So I think he's correct in saying that. He should not do that. He should not do that. He should not do that. But I think we've had a discussion in the otherwise in the papers about all the concerns, the reason why this should concern any individual. But I don't think I see enough information as to what can someone do in a situation like this if they believe that their information was disseminated without their permission. And I did acquire some tips, and I feel like I want to share it with the public so they can get an idea of what they can do.
I have some tips as well from another individual.
So these tips are not from me. These tips are from a gentleman called Karen Rose, who's a digital strategist. Okay,
yes.
So I put that out here. So I have taken 4 tips that he has shared. He had 5, but I reduced it to 4. He said, if you believe that your information, sensitive data, may have been compromised, one of the first things you should do is monitor your bank and credit card statements for any signs of unauthorized activity. And that's why I love online banking. I check my bank statements every month. I think when I used to get it paper, you get it, once every 3 months and you look at it. But I check my banking statements fairly regularly, every 2 weeks to a month. And if you believe your data has been compromised, you should go now and check it, and probably check every week.
Yeah,
more than you would do before. The second thing you should do is fortify your passwords. Again, what we're always told, strong, unique passwords. Don't put your date of birth and your name and your nickname.
Yeah, because otherwise your password was just leaked as well.
Yes, so you mix your letters, you mix numbers, you have symbols, and avoid using the same password across multiple sites. Now, I must say that's very difficult. For everything now that is online, you need a password. I really can't remember 10, 15 passwords, I must admit.
Well, your computer, if you're using, say you're accessing something that's regularly with your computer, only with your computer, it could save the password for you, and you can have a more complicated password. But of course, there will be other things where you will have to remember it for yourself, like your banking PIN number, maybe your phone PIN, certain other things, right? It's still good to have multiple passwords for that.
Do not save your passwords on a public, as Keita was talking. If you use public networks or you use a public computer, you cannot save your password there.
And by the way, this thing, because I said I had advice from another individual. It was actually Karen.
It was same Karen. Well, Karen getting free adverts. Well, what other tips you have? I have 2 more.
Funny enough, a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed him, and about 2 weeks ago, and I'm due to interview him again next week over the same thing.
Well, what other tips you have then?
No, but to add to what you were saying about fortifying your passwords, you see this thing called two-factor authentication. That is a very, it's simple, but a powerful tool.
Yes.
That helps you go a long way.
So explain what it is.
So for example, if you have an online banking app, you have a password to access the app, but you will also get, in some instances, a notification to your email, which is why, again, you don't have the same password for the app and for your email, but you can get a notification by the email verifying that it is you. Or in some instances, you ever notice that when you enter your password into an account, you get a text message with a code saying you've got to enter this?
Yes.
Yeah. All that is two-factor
So
authentication.
2 forms. Yes, my bank actually does, you put in a password and then you have to put in a PIN. So that's what. Another.
Well, one last thing to add to this also, just be careful. You might think, oh, I've got it. I've got the easiest password in the world for me to remember, but nobody will figure it out. That's not true. Actually, this happened to a friend of mine on a game. He got hacked because he just used one of those benign passwords. It's 123 QWE. It's six things, one on top of the other, right on the keyboard, right? One would think, oh my gosh, who would guess that?
It's like
well, apparently,
just said his old password.
It's simple, and so everybody.
1, 2, 3.
That's not a password to have.
1, 2, 3, Q. What?
That's not a password to have, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Having password as password. So it's not just the date of birth.
These are common.
These are so common. That's the problem. They might seem smart, but they're so common that they're just one of the things that hackers will just start with. That's the top of the list that they're going to go through, regardless of if they think you have it or not, because it's so common. It's just automatic.
People think they're smarter than they are. So another thing they said, if you think your information has been hacked, beware of phishing attempts. So phishing is where fraudulent attempts are made to obtain sensitive information by disguising it as a trustworthy entity. So they would send an email to you, send a text message saying, oh, your account has been compromised, click here to solve it, or it's things like that.
Or
beware.
And the newest ones lately, because we all are aware of the Nigerian prince scam, but the new ones lately is you have your order to collect. It was received from Amazon, it was received from Macy's. I don't know why all of a sudden there's some of my spam. Somebody who's using my email address, by the way, anyway, the point is you're getting those emails. Do not click on it. Do not. It's sometimes the simplest thing you have to do is just take a look at the email address that sent it to you.
Yes.
You know?
They normally do not come from Amazon's email, or look at the symbol. The symbol that they claim, it is actually different from the Amazon or the Nike.
Sometimes it might be very close.
But there is always a telltale sign that it's not the same. So if you know you didn't order something, do not click on it.
Here's my thing though, folks. To me, one of the main things is, as a rule, a company that you're dealing with, you have an online account with, whether it's Amazon, a bank, a telephone company, whether it's your child's video game company or streaming service, they will never ask for your password, and they will never ask over email your credit card information. They will never ask that. They have a system to keep that anonymous from themselves. They will never ask it over email. So if you have an email asking for those things, just one time, don't even take it on.
But you know, I had a situation with a bank that made me very suspicious. I don't know. So they emailed and said that when I had completed a certain transaction with them, the person who had done the transaction with me failed to provide me with something to fill out. So they said, please fill out this and send it back to us. I watched the email, I ignored it. I got a follow-up email, I ignored it. Then someone called and she said, you know, we sent you these emails. I'm from X, Y, and Z bank. Can you please fill it out because of, again, money laundering requirements? We've been audited. They didn't make you fill out this information. I said, well, this is persistence. So what I did is actually called my friend who works in the bank, and I said, do you have a staff member by this name? And then I said, all right. She said, yes, we do. I said, okay, well, it seems legitimate, but I still kind of ignored it a little bit, some more. And then the lady realized that I was suspicious, so she actually got the person who I originally dealt with to send me an email. I guess she felt like, okay, I might feel more comfortable with it. Yeah. So the lady wrote back and said, look, I am no longer in this branch. Please fill out the information, whatever. And then I filled it out. But my thing is, I don't know if other people would be as suspicious as I am, but what I'm saying is cross-check. If you're not sure, if you don't have a friend working in the bank like I do, you can probably call the branch and try and find the person.
I had a similar experience as to you, where I had to fill out a Form 19 as well from a local bank. Similar experience, and I was just as suspicious as you. It took a few phone calls and some correspondence to actually get me to fill out our form.
Exactly. So I think it's better to be safe than sorry, better to be suspicious. Don't give people personal information. Go in if you must, call a friend, find out, verify, double check on your own before you...
Anyway, listen, JJB has to leave us now because we have to take a break and then we'll open up the phone lines. But It's good seeing you after so long. What are your plans for the weekend, by the way?
Oh my gosh, guys, my weekends are packed now. I'm training for Uri Half Marathon, which is on the 19th, which is next week, Sunday. So I've been running long runs, 20 kilometers and so over the weekends. And on top of that, I also sing with the Marinettes Chorale. Our Christmas concert is coming up on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December. So in addition to Tuesday and Thursday practice, I also have Sunday practice now, 3 and now going to be 4 hours. So guys, I want to invite you all. Christmas begins with the Marionettes, and I want to invite you all to the concert. Again, as I said, it's Friday, the 1st of December, Saturday, the 2nd, or Sunday, the 3rd. Hey, you'll have the flyer. That's great. So you can see the tickets there.
See, we work magic, you know.
You work magic.
Yeah.
So on Friday, the price is $200, all seats open. On Saturday, we have 3 tiers of tickets. We have the 200 general, the 250 reserved, and the 300 premium reserve, which gives you the best seats in the house and only the best for you guys.
Oh my goodness,
and on
thank you.
Sunday, we have the same, but Sunday shows at 5 p.m. So your Christmas with the Marionettes, I want to invite the listeners and viewers as well. I would love for you all to come out and see me and my fellow Marionettes.
Can we just have that flyer back up on the screen one moment just so people can get some more information?
Yes.
There you go, guys. So you can join Janelle. Yes, Janelle is singing. We actually want to go to that now. I want to see Janelle sing.
And the rest of the
I
time.
only have one issue though, Janelle.
What's the issue?
Bring that flyer up one more time. Yes, one more time, please. I know. WSNCC is not at the bottom of that flyer. Where's WSN Content Capital? Where's WSN Content
I
Capital?
did not create the flyer, but I am there, of course, repping WSN all the way.
That's right there. And we'll be there.
Unfortunately, with that, we are way over time, so we have to take a break. When we come back, well, we say goodbye to Janelle, but we open the phone lines and welcome you, the viewer, to call in. So stay tuned. News on the hour next.
Here's the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sierra Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here, San Fernando Chamber Kiran Singh says crime is having a negative impact on businesses. Residents facing water woes receive hope amid recent downpours. Regionally, Grenada unveils underwater sculptures at Molyneux Park. Now for the details. Crime is having a negative impact on businesses in TNT, and if something is not done soon, it will have serious consequences on the economy. This according to President of the San Fernando Chamber, Kiran Singh. He says that statistically speaking, crime has been having a negative impact on businesses and investor confidence in the country as murders and robberies continue to escalate and home invasions continue to increase. He stated that while the chamber noticed that the president sought to alleviate the situation by providing help for the TCPS via the Defense Force, however, this would have challenges. He lamented the fact that criminals responded by invading the homes of those who chose to take the advice to lock up early, sometimes with dire consequences. Residents in Arima grappling with water supply challenges can expect some reprieve, thanks to recent heavy rainfall, according to assurances from the Water Storage Authority. The disruption in water service attributed to a shortfall of 5 million gallons per day at the Hollis Reservoir has impacted areas including Valencia, Arima, Aruca, La Ferrasante, and others. Arima Mayor Baliram Maharaj shared that WASA has taken proactive measures by tapping into water sources in Guanapo and Aripo to supplement the deficiency at the Hollis Reservoir. In collaboration with the Public Utilities Minister, efforts are underway to involve additional contractors in delivering truck-borne water to affected residents. To address the shortfall, WASA has initiated the drilling of 3 wells in Aripo, further contributing to the ongoing efforts to alleviate the water supply challenges faced by the affected communities. Regionally, Grenada's Tourism Authority recently revealed the triumphant realization and placement of a groundbreaking initiative, bringing a unique blend of art and marine conservation to the crystal clear waters of Grenada. Guided by the creative vision of sculptor Jason K.S. Taylor, a total of 31 mesmerizing underwater sculptures have been carefully immersed and positioned within the Molyneux Underwater Sculpture Park. Well, that's it to News on the Hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back to Talk About, ladies and gentlemen. Now is the time. We open the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer. A lot has been said. Concerns about the hacking. My colleagues more or less shared similar concerns to mine. What are your concerns about it? I'm sure there's a lot of people. Keaton always points out to me the amount of unbacked people who don't trust the banks. We just had a bank situation not too long before that, right? To some extent, all of these things are in similar wheelhouses. So call in, let us know what you think, as well as with anything that was said in the daily review. But Keaton.
By the way, just to the topic that you were addressing previously in regards to the DPP.
Yes.
And what Ramesh Lawrence Maraj was saying. From the very beginning, I was trying to figure out how you would, individuals within cabinet were trying to swing blame on the DPP for this situation. Because at the end of the day, the DPP's office does not pay write the check directly for the rent. And there were concerns, and to tell you how frustrated the DPP was, and probably still is, he actually spoke out against it in public. He went on a radio program and spoke about it, and that's to tell you the level of frustration that he has faced and is facing. I never understood how they put blame on him for this. I never understand, and if there was communication in regard to the DPP then speaking and saying the building is not fit for purpose, so we can't, the security concerns, as was highlighted by the special branch, and then, it's probably not enough space, whatever the reasons may be. Still, you blame it on, you see, the thing is, $55 million have gone down the drain.
Yep.
We've lost $55 million.
For nothing.
An individual or individuals are $55 million richer. Whereas people out there struggling to buy a hot dog and bread.
I mean,
right?
but are we blaming the building owner? Because to me, he's further, maybe he might be culpable in some minor way, but to me, it's further down the line. There's people who are more responsible for this than him.
It's not the individual who owns the building. If a contract was signed between a tenant, right, and a landlord, fine, my agreement is in place. Once I know as the landlord I'm not doing anything illegal and I'm abiding by all the laws, then if that's the case, it's the responsibility of the tenant in regards I'm paying rent. It's the building, it's the facilities.
Building, right?
Now, if the landlord is aware that something illegal is taking place, then you have a right, a responsibility, a duty there. But I never understood. You see, the point is $55 million have gone down the drain, and we try to shift blame somewhere else. We try to do some public relations, and we try to, say, this is not our fault. But come on, man, we struggling out here, and we just lost $55 million, and we're playing the blame game.
Ironically, I think I have an explanation as to how it is they're trying to blame DPP. It also ties into why this decision was made. But we have a caller from Five Rivers. First, good morning, caller, you on here?
Good morning. It's Faizabad.
Faizabad, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
John, morning.
Good morning.
I am convinced. The Prime Minister has now been able to convince me that he is not interested in combating crime. Look how long he said he was going to initiate the talks with the opposition leader. I want to remind the public of Trinidad and Tobago that the safety and security resides with the government. Whatever the opposition do, or we want them to do in cooperating with the government, would be a bonus. You understand? Although they have a responsibility, but our system of politics and governance is one of past the post system where winner take all. And they got into office on the premise of solving crime and corruption. It's 8 years down the road, and not one person has been arrested for corruption. Not one single person from the opposition or charged to the extent where the public would feel a little bit comfortable. The other thing with wastage, I want all you to remember Train 1, where $240 million was spent for upgrades, knowing fully well that they didn't have any gas to supply it, to have it running. And it's ironic that Mr. Miraj, FC, would come now and probably bat for the DPP. I have no problem with that. But in the same vein, I would have expected him to bat for the national community with respect to the AV drilling. And, when the matter was asked to be appealed by Deborah Peake, the chairman completely refused. I feel these people need to be held accountable and put behind bars. Seriously speaking, else we heading nowhere fast, brothers.
All right, caller. Well, thank you very much for your contribution. Do have a good day. I've heard your points, and I understand your points very well. Very familiar with them as well. And I get where you're coming from now. Just bear in mind, given that there were to be discussions between the current administration and the opposition, Sean had an interview with Dr. Kirkmehu yesterday, and I know that you can probably correct me if I'm wrong. Whatever the reasons may be, or the dissatisfaction, whether or not the Prime Minister was or was not going to be a part. He was not going to be a part of the discussions, of course, regarding crime and national security. The opposition failed to submit their list. If it is that Cabinet put forward members, including the Minister of National Security and the Attorney General, and the Attorney General was chairing these discussions, I cannot understand, for whatever reason, the same opposition that has been speaking out against the actions of the current administration, as well as the same opposition that has been speaking about crime plaguing Trinidad and Tobago and the government feeling, and the ones who are saying that we are willing to work with the government, meet with the government to help better Trinidad and Tobago, you fail to submit a list of 4 parliamentarians. Now, what was the reason? What's the justification?
Now, here's the thing. I understand their justification, but I think, like you, it's not 100% acceptable, right? It's a minor justification. It doesn't really...
What's the justification?
Basically, they're still waiting on the Prime Minister's response.
In regards to whether or not he'll be a part of it?
Well,
that's
on top of other things.
Well,
exactly, right? So it's how serious you take the situation. The flip side is, I don't really see the justification for setting the deadline, right?
Hold on, let's take this call. But that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
The opposition has just further politicized the situation as far as I'm concerned. They haven't helped the situation at all.
We have San Fernando.
Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning, caller from San Fernando.
Good morning, Peter.
Morning.
Good morning.
you're back on this DPP issue again, Sean. I mean, it came out of the fact that Ramesh Maharaj had made his discourse on how he felt about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I said recently to you, please go to Parliament View and take the clip of the DPP in front of the Joint Select Committee, and the DPP makes a precise declaration as to how this process went about and where he fit into the process and who made the call on the unsafeness of the building. This needs to be put out there. It was not him. It was his, and nobody has refuted this. The special branch and the Ministry of National Security are the ones that said it was unsafe. So please go back and play that clip for the benefit of your audience.
Yeah.
Please. With respect to you all had a chat on talking about cyber security. I am amazed that how many people aren't aware of they are carrying around one of the most vulnerable pieces of equipment with respect to security of your passwords and stuff. You see that cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
People need to go into the cell phone and understand. Let me give you an example. Recently, I normally would log into to my bank account to transfer some funds because my active accounts that I use with my cards, I don't leave much money on them until I'm ready to do a transaction. And it's just about 5 minutes since you transfer the funds. And
yes,
I started to see popping up on my phone. And I log in, when I pull up the app, I am seeing my CIF number and my password encrypted, of course. But it appears on my thing, and it asks me. When I put it in, it enters it. I never, that's one thing I never allow my phone to copy my password.
Yes, never save your
But what happens is, when you remember, if you have an iOS device, you keep getting updates, and these updates that your phone allows, that you get on your phone, those are the updates that are doing these things and that are automatically taking your passwords, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to do, you have to go into your phone. There are features there and disable that feature.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So some people take it for granted. And just as Keaton said, you use a Wi-Fi hotspot, and there are some nefarious person trying to get data there, and that is it for you.
Yeah.
So people need to be aware that you could go into your phone. It take about 10 minutes. Just go and knock around and go to your privacy settings, and you will find these things where you can disable these automatic password grabbers from your system, because it's happening on your cell phone. Especially the newer your cell phone is, the worse it is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more. Did we lose him?
All right,
oh, sorry
sorry
about that caller.
Sorry.
We do have another caller waiting, but that's an important point. Privacy settings, but also he gave an example. It's not the only one, but that's a good example as to what Keaton was saying with regards to public Wi-Fi.
Know your device.
Yeah.
Simple. Know any device. Laptop, cell phone. Caller now with us from St. Anne's. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I just want to make a general comment about politics in the country as a whole, historically as well as current. Any casual observer of politics in this country, if they are fair, would say that the PNM has done a lot for the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they expanded the road network, they encouraged the increase in education, they provided health care, they did a lot. But what the PNM, and they've taken full credit for what they've done, but what the PNM also did was to introduce a culture of social dependency and corruption, which we're still reeling from today. And notwithstanding the successive governments, after them coming into power, they had to come face to face with that reality in every level and sphere of government, including up to the present time. The PNM has never taken a role in admitting their complicity with that. they always look the other way or point the other way. And until they are willing to take responsibility for the good as well as the bad of their management of this country's resources, I'm going to look askance. Your contributor, your normal Friday contributor, has declared herself for the PNM, and I have to say that in her favor, every time she speaks on a subject, even though I don't necessarily agree with her, she speaks with a lucid tongue and a clear mind. And if that is what the PNM has to offer going forward, then maybe there's hope. But I would like to hear how she feels about her organization 20 years from now, when she's much older, much more exposed than she is now. I suspect they might be different. Now, in public, all the PNM, they all march to the same drum. But in private, they may have different points of view. I'm not talking about what she might say in public. I'm talking about her private point of view. We have a long way to go in this country in terms of taking responsibility for ourselves. We are post-independence, we are post-republic, and yet we still get caught up in like snares in our legal management of the country, in our political management. It seems like we can't find a way out of it. And I pray and I hope that somehow along the way we get to the level of maturity that we claim to have, but we are sorely lacking.
Certainly, thank you very much. What a powerful call indeed, and very good points. And let me second it by saying, if I take a look at any administration over the course of the history of Trinidad and Tobago, they have had their contributions to development. Yes, we have certainly seen progress in many areas, but need I say in instances as well, there's been regress. So you've used the example in regards to the People's National Movement. Even under A.N.R. Robinson and his administration, the NAR, there have been arguments that the best growth Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen was the years following A.N.R. Robinson's time as Prime Minister, because of the decisions that he made, making such difficult decisions. So if you take a look at any administration, there have been a lot of positives, But yes, Kolo, there have been a lot of negatives as well, of which they refuse to take responsibility for. And the simple reason is because it's not going to guarantee them or grant them another 5 years. Leadership is not just about focusing on yourself or the good, you know. In order to be a good leader, an all-rounded leader, you must be able to look in the mirror and give constructive criticism to yourself and receive constructive criticism from others, bettering yourself and your decision-making.
But I think we have a major issue with, for lack of a better way to put it, let me just be upfront, it's incompetence, right? Not to say that it's not smart people. How many senior counsels?
That's a word you like a lot.
I like this word a lot because at the end of the day, and it's my explanation for the DPP thing. I believe that one of the reasons why they try to blame the DPP is one of the same reasons why they got into this situation in the first place, incompetence. They didn't cross their T's and dot their I's in the correct order, right? And they don't necessarily, even though it's similar to the TS, it's the same line of thinking I have, and I could be wrong, but for the TSCT hack and how they handle that, incompetence. So how do you respond to this? Which is why, how do you deal with negative press? Let's try and deny, let's try and cover up, let's try and distract, let's do everything we can except actually treating with it so that for situations where it might not even be our fault. The Prime Minister brought it up in Tobago just the other day with regards to when they came into office and the ferry service, because of maintenance, a lack of maintenance over the years leading up to the change in power, right? But my thing is, listen, I understand what he's saying, that a lot of it happened in the People's Partnership times, but they communicated about it so badly, they more or less took the blame onto themselves, whether they realize it or not. The partnership didn't blame them. They took the blame onto themselves because they were so incompetent with their communication over the ferry service problems from the jump. You know, and these are the things that I just can't stand.
You use this word incompetence innumerable times.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I disagree it's incompetence. I think it's ignorance and arrogance that leads to some level of incompetence. It's not incompetence per se. And the reason why I say ignorance and arrogance is because things can be done successfully. It could be achieved. It's whether or not we actually want it to get. And listen, sometimes it doesn't take a master's in accounting to know how much change to give or how much this is valued. Sometimes it doesn't have to have the fanciest of university degrees. And in many instances, there have individuals who have a doctorate before their name or who have the graces of qualifications but cannot put a sentence together.
Well, that would be
right?
competence.
And then there are individuals who simply have common sense and could do a much better job. The point is, it's how we get things done. It is us wanting to get it done, because as far as I'm concerned, sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's easy. If you know that you are losing money from a building that is empty, and I'm just using this as an example, come on, $55 million, think about it. This is us doing it willingly. This is us doing it willingly.
For all who like hampers and grants, just imagine how much hampers $55 million could have given the people in the nation. Not that I'm the guy that says cut social programs, but
Sean,
even that would be better than just wasting it on rent.
People boasting, and this is not a joke. I use the term people, it's not person, people boasting that they are receiving URP. Boasting that they're seeing, receiving unemployment relief.
That goes back to what I say, the expectations for ourselves. But we have caller from St. Anne's. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, I spoke to you on a short one call back after
yes.
your commentary about arrogance and corruption. What's the political is the core. In other parts of the world, US, Europe, politicians get jailed for corruption. In Trinidad and Tobago, at the least, they get charged. And somehow years pass, sometimes decades, and they get off. Over again. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. It was designed to protect those who are in charge, those who are wealthy. It's not a mistake. And we keep talking about it like, this is so shocking, this is so horrible. It's not shocking. It's predictable.
Precisely, caller. Absolutely correct.
From the Constitution, because they know it protects them in large measure.
Yes.
What it is. And commentary on how we...
Sorry.
All right, caller.
Caller, breaking up a little bit there, but we got the gist of your message.
I'm so sorry we couldn't hear your entire message. It's simply because I don't know if TSTT is your provider, and there might be water on your line. Good morning, caller from Santa Cruz. Hello, good morning.
You're on the air.
Hello, good morning.
Caller?
Caller from Santa Cruz, are you with us? All right, we lost that caller from Santa Cruz.
Apologies, we got both calls at around the same time, so we took St. Anne's first because he even the call back, he was technically first and he was waiting. So apologies, it is what it is. We don't know if you got disconnected, but we're more or less out of time.
I'll tell you what, no, we've got 3 minutes if you want to make your point in 30 seconds, and I apologize, we have to restrict it to 30 seconds. How we've given all the callers another opportunity, but in all fairness to you, did call in, we've lost that call. All right, this is the last call. Good morning, caller from San Fernando. Hello, good morning.
Sean and Peter now, and I'll go back to make my final point.
Yeah, great.
You know, this crime talk that they do not want to have, because it seems as if they do not want to have any crime talk. It's as if they have a destination, I support Spain, one coming from Central, one coming from Arima, and the one from Arima decide to take a boat to Tobago and then go to Barbados, and the one from Central decided to go down to Cedras and get a boat to go Guyana. They are not serious. While this country is burning, these politicians are playing the fool. I listened to your interview yesterday with Mr. Mayhew, Sean, and I just had to cringe. Yes, I remember Kirk Mayhew when he had his own party, and where he has gone now is a sad state. These politicians are not serious. They are playing games in front of us, and we have to speak out and stop them. That's why I asked what's his name the other day, ESP Ali, about a one-man protest, because I just don't want to get locked up. But somebody, I have to do something.
Yes, I understand, caller.
They may not publicize it on the TV or whatever, but I have to do something.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
You too.
You too, you too. At the end of the day, I mean, I understand Dr. Mayu's points, and he is the communicator that's facilitating the message of his party. So I won't hold that against him. But at the end of the day, as your reaction to what I said, their position was, you know, you're more or less right there, Keaton. And same thing with Mr. Sanfano, and it's more or less what I've been saying the whole time. It just, in various ways, yes, it's not as they're doing the exact same thing, but when you add it up at the end of the day, it's hard to see any sense of agency or attempt to try to get this actually done in any way, shape, or form. Everybody's jockeying for their terms, and more or less, when the dust settles, they could point the finger and say, see, it's not our fault, it's their fault.
And to the population of Trinidad and Tobago, please stop fooling yourself. If you are listening to the nonsense that is being fed to us from all quarters, if you are being fueled by what you all refer to mustard and ketchup or relish or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, please stop fooling yourself. You be smarter than that. And to people who are boasting about receiving unemployment relief, I know we live in hard times, you know, but many of you all are just simply lazy and don't even bother to look for a decent earning from a day's work. And there are, as minor as it may be, honest jobs that are available out there.
Yeah, as you have said, it's not just the politicians, right? It's also the voters and the supporters, the hardcore supporters that, you know, you're kind of fooling yourselves if you just want to look at the good and you're not willing to admit the bad for your own side.
Anyway, Sean Michael Small, it's been a pleasure. And
Mr. Shah!
Nice.
Not Mr. Singh, folks, Mr. Shah,
Yes,
Keaton Shah.
I don't know. My name showed up in the papers as Mr. Singh. I was like, who's Mr. Singh? We have a Mr. Singh here?
Do we? I don't think
we
so.
have no Mr. Singh. It's Keaton Shah, not Keaton Singh. But anyway, thank you very much to Janelle John Bates. It was nice to be here once more to have a conversation with her. And as I depart this morning, Shub Diwali to the entire population of Trinidad and Tobago and to the viewing audience around the world. I can only wish for positive, peaceful things over this weekend and hopefully in time to come. Sean?
Well, folks, as my co-host always says, it could be a good day if we try. But I will say, start today to try, folks. And we will see you next week, Keaton and I. Bye-bye.
Today is a good day to have a good day and a great weekend.
There it is.
Bye-bye.
WESN. I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the content capital.